Chapter 242. Yang Hongyu was also by Li Zhongjio's side. Although there was no clear indication that Li Zhongjio was here to help, at the very least, he was on their side and not the enemy's. It was always good to have an extra helper by his side. When the Yang family members arrived at the pass, they saw the Shi family members marching towards them in a grandiose manner. Apart from them, there was another group of people who quietly walked out from the forest at the side after seeing the Shi family. This group of people was made up of cultivators from Lower Kong City or the surrounding areas who had heard the news and came over. Although there were one or two who were slightly famous, most of their strength was only SOSO and not worth mentioning at all. Therefore, the Yang family and the Shi family did not take them to heart. There were 3 other clans in Lower Kingstown. Perhaps they were tied down by other matters. Although some people came to watch the show or to inquire about some information, in fact, they didn't really participate in this competition. It could be seen that the Shi family and the Yang family not only wanted to fight for the meteorite, but also wanted to have a real decisive battle. Perhaps after today, the disparity in strength between the 2 families would be even greater. The winner would be the king and the loser would be the bandit. Yang Yan, you'd better leave quickly today and I can let you live. Otherwise, don't blame me for being merciless. Shi Wuhan walked out and said to Yang Yan, "Don't fucking talk nonsense. Come if you have the guts." Before Yang Yan could say anything, Yang Feiyu, who was standing beside him, had already stepped forward and cursed loudly. "Yang Feiyu, do you think you are very strong? You are not the only one who has entered the Yuan general realm in Lower Kong City." Shi Lei also stood out and said, "Neither was willing to give an inch." Moreover, the competition between these young people was very intense. "Why don't the 3 of you come together?" Shi Lei said, dealing a blow to the morale of the Yang family. The Shi family immediately burst into laughter. Yang Feiyu was also furious. "I alone am enough to trample you under my feet. Then let's have a try." Seeing that Yang Feiyu was about to attack, Yang Yan raised his hand, indicating for Yang Feiyu to step back. It wasn't a good thing to be enraged by the other party. Yesterday, the Shi family killed 2 members of the Yang family. If you don't hand over 20 lives today, how can the Yang family survive in Lower Connecticut in the future? Yang Yan bellowed. The experts of the Yang family immediately lined up in a row. It was obvious that they were going to defend to the death. No matter what, they would not allow the Shi family to pass through. Yang Yan, do you really think that you can contend against me with just the fire dragon shears? Shi Wuhan also said in a deep voice. This battle was inevitable. They had to carve out a path of blood. Only then would they be able to come to an end today. Not to mention, the Yang family had lost a lot of people. This debt had to be settled clearly. "I'm sorry, yes." Yang Yan roared as flames surged within his sleeves. 2 flames spun and twisted in front of him. They formed a scissor-like object. In front of Yang Yan, this object was filled with the majesty of a king. As it released its aura, it formed a terrifying wave that gradually spread out. Rumble. The Yang family's heirloom. Fire dragon shears. In the face of the threat from the Shi family, Yang Yan did not hold back and directly used his killing move. This was to tell the other party that he was this strong. If they had the ability to come up, then they had better be prepared to be killed. Yang Yan had already formed a battle formation. On the opposite side, Shi Wuhan also seemed to be silent for a while. Finally, Shi Wuhan whispered to the second elder of the Yang family beside him. "Later, when Yang Yan's fire dragon shears is under my control, you guys will kill your way over." "Yes, Patriarch." The terrifying thing about the fire dragon shears was that it was not used for single combat. Most of the time, it could be used to attack a group of people. Once it was locked on, it was very likely to directly kill a large number of people. It was because of the terrifying power of the fire dragon shears that the Shi family did not dare to swarm over. After all, everyone was facing the same power. Some people could withstand it. For example, the experts of the Yuan general realm and above could withstand it. However, there were some people who could not withstand it. If they couldn't block it, then they would only be reduced to ashes. Yesterday, it was also because Shi Wuhan had joined forces with the other elders to suppress them. Otherwise, they would not have been able to hold on until now. It was estimated that Yang Yan had already killed all the Shi family members yesterday. Li Zongjio originally wanted to go in, but seeing that there were people all around and that there was only one entrance, he decided to wait here. He took a step back and hid. Mental energy spread out as he searched for Li Changjiang's figure. He did not know how Li Changjiang had changed. After leaving the Li family for so long, it was normal for there to be some changes to his body. However, his aura could not be changed. Therefore, Li Zongjio used his mental energy to quickly find the hiding Li Changjiang as long as he was nearby. Shi Wuhan walked towards Yang Yan, who had used the fire dragon shears. Yang Yan, after today, your young family will be removed from Kingstown. You don't have much ability, but you talk big. I want to see how you will walk out of Wolf Fong Valley. Yang Yan laughed disdainfully. Wasn't it just bragging? Who didn't know how to brag? You will know very soon. Shi Wuhan took out the Ice Demon Stone. The moment he activated his Yuan power, the Ice Demon Stone immediately emitted a ray of light. Boom! Above the Ice Demon Stone, an extremely cold energy suddenly emerged and rushed towards the Fire Serpent Scissors. Yang Yan was stunned. What kind of move was this? When he saw it clearly, he realized that the Fire Dragon shears in his hand had already been trapped by his opponent. Roar! The flames on the Fire Serpent Scissors' body were also restrained by a wave of cold air and were forcibly trapped in place. My Fire Dragon shears! What kind of power is this? This sudden burst of power was like a water snake with the power of ice, entangling the flames on the Fire Flood Dragon Scissors. Ice Demon Stone. When Yang Yan saw the item in Shi Wuhan's hand, he was instantly shocked. The Fire Dragon shears were extremely powerful and specialized in fire attacks. However, the most fearful thing was the Ice Demon Stone. It was an item that specialized in cold energy attacks. Once it was trapped, there would be endless trouble. The Fire Dragon shears would be tightly bound. The opponent's level was even higher than the Fire Dragon shears. Do you think that only your Yang family has this Yuan weapon? My Shi family has it too. Shi Wuhan laughed loudly. Seeing this, the second elder of the Shi family waved his hand. The people behind him were already prepared and ready to attack the Yang family. The Yang family relied on the power of the Fire Dragon shears. Now that the Fire Dragon shears were restrained, there was naturally nothing to be afraid of. They could even free up more people to deal with the Yang family. Kill them all. Kill all these Shi family bastards. Suddenly, a great battle broke out. Elders against elders, disciples against disciples. Between each other, there were terrifying Yuan Qi fluctuations. There were close to 30 people on both sides. Among these 30 people, the lowest cultivation was at least grade 6 Yuan Master. It was not something that ordinary forces could withstand. Therefore, this round of attacks was quite fierce. When the rogue cultivators felt the terrifying fluctuations on the battlefield, they could not help but take 2 steps back. After all, the momentum of this battle was too terrifying. Oh my God, this is too scary. Just as the two families were fighting, they saw a group of people rushing towards the valley at high speed. The Yang family and the Shi family saw it, but the Shi family did not stop them. Instead, they helped them to block the Yang family who wanted to attack. Someone wants to fish in troubled waters. Fei Yu, take some people to steal it. Yang Yan immediately shouted. Yang Fei Yu immediately replied. Guards, follow me. Yang Fei Yu was an expert at the general level. His level of cultivation was not something an ordinary person could withstand. Furthermore, he had a fire-tipped spear in his hand. It was very powerful. It was enough to intimidate everyone. Shi Lei, you go. Shi Wuhan roared. Most of the people were restraining each other here. There were also people who freed themselves and rushed towards the valley. As for Li Zongjio, when the first group of people rushed into the valley, he had already moved. That was because he had already discovered his target. Chapter 243. Yang Feiyu led his men and rushed into the valley. There was a deep pit in the valley. Within the deep pit, there was a meteorite that came from outer space. The surrounding deep pit was the result of the meteorite's power when it fell from outer space. One could imagine that if a person were to stand under the meteorite, he would probably be vaporized by the high temperature of the meteorite before he could even touch the meteorite. Shirley, you bastard. Didn't you want to fight with your grandfather? Come if you have the guts. Yang Feiyu took the initiative to provoke Shirley as he roared at him. The distance between the two parties was not far. When Yang Feiyu rushed over, Shirley also turned his head to take a look. Idiot! Shirley did not fight with Yang Feiyu. Instead, he lured Yang Feiyu to an empty space and turned to face him. What a pity! Although your talent is not bad, it's a pity that you will die in my hands today. I really want to know how it feels to kill a genius. Shirley's lips curled into a cruel smile. Yang Feiyu disdainfully said, With just you? I want to see what you can use to block my fire-tipped spear. As he spoke, Yang Feiyu gently shook the fire-tipped spear in his hand. Immediately, a ring of fire curled up in front of him. Boom! Facing the fire-tipped spear in Yang Feiyu's hand, Shirley was naturally afraid. However, the one who was going to deal with Yang Feiyu today was not him. Shirley slightly raised his head and looked at the sky. Yang Feiyu also raised his head and sensed that there was a figure that was rapidly falling from above. Boom! As the terrifying power descended, Yang Feiyu was not afraid as he thrust the fire-tipped spear in his hand forward. However, his long spear was easily swept away by the other party's sleeves, and he kept it. At the same time, a palm was thrown out. Yang Feiyu only had time to circulate the yuan power in his body to block the attack. Bang! Yang Feiyu's entire body was sent flying and landed on the ground. The strength of this palm was extremely domineering. Cough cough, who are you? Yang Feiyu hurriedly got up, but he saw that there was an expert beside Shirley. In addition, there were also some black-robed people who landed in the surroundings one after another, heavily surrounding Shirley's personal guards. The other party's aura was clearly above Yang Feiyu's. Yang Feiyu immediately realized that the current situation was not good and immediately growled. Retreat! We can't retreat. Kill them all. The one-armed man said indifferently. He waved his hand casually, and his subordinates immediately rushed out and surrounded Yang Feiyu. The personal guards of the Yang family also suffered heavy losses in an instant. In just the initial exchange of blows, many of them fell to the ground. Bang! Bang! Young master, run! Crack! A Yang family guard fell to the ground with a single slash. He didn't even have time to reflect before he was killed right in front of his eyes. Yang Feiyu wanted to escape, but the one-armed black-robed man once again attacked with the fire-tipped spear in his hand. He rolled it up in his sleeves and flung it towards Yang Feiyu. Boom! The spear flew over, enough to penetrate Yang Feiyu's body. Yang Feiyu was also lying on the ground, looking at the fire-tipped spear in front of him in shock. Just as it was about to pierce his chest, a figure blocked in front of him and easily caught the fire-tipped spear as if it was picking it up. When everyone saw this extra figure, they were all puzzled. The only person present felt that many emotions were concentrated on this person. When he saw the person in front of him, he couldn't help but want to trample him under his feet and ruthlessly ravage him. He wanted to use the cruelest torture in the world on this person's body repeatedly. Hatred to the bone was this deep and heavy. Joe. The black-robed man's eyes were filled with murderous intent. His broken hand and empty sleeves were also fluttering in the absence of wind, as if they were fluctuating along with the black-robed man's aura. The strength of the golden body, which had been tempered after experiencing countless pain, had already reached an extremely tough state. It would not collapse under any circumstances. However, when it saw the enemy in front of it, its steel-like heart began to tremble crazily at this moment. I've been looking for you so painstakingly. He took off the hat. Li Changjiang revealed his face. At this moment, Li Changjiang's face seemed to be covered with black poisonous lines. These were the blood vessels that had been tempered. To be able to appear in such a state, it meant that Li Changjiang seemed to have been subjected to some unknown secret technique before this. Therefore, his strength could advance by leaps and bounds and reach such a level. The current Li Changjiang's cultivation had already entered the Yuan general realm. At the very least, it was around grade 3. Li Zongjio knew quite a lot about this kind of method of forcibly increasing one's strength and advancing one's cultivation by leaps and bounds in a short period of time. It wasn't considered rare, but generally speaking, it wouldn't have a good ending. It's really... Li Zongjio looked at Li Changjiang and said calmly. Compared to his initial anger, Li Zongjio was now able to see things in a more correct way. Now, there was no need to be angry or struggle. One must know that the guy in front of him was nothing to Li Zongjio. Moreover, in this life, he wouldn't have the chance to harm the Li family. There was another culprit behind Li Changjiang's actions. Although Li Changjiang was just a chess piece, and in the eyes of Qingyuan Villa, the small Li family wasn't even worth mentioning, they didn't even care about it. However, they had provoked someone they shouldn't have. Perhaps this was fate. They were destined to be completely trampled by Li Zongjio. This was something that Li Zongjio had never doubted. Li Zongjio? Yang Feiyu, who was lying on the ground, heard this name and looked at Li Zongjio. He seemed to be a protector brought by his third brother. At first, he didn't pay much attention to him. However, he didn't expect that Li Zongjio's strength wasn't weak. Just now, Li Zongjio directly saved his life. Just this point alone made Yang Feiyu extremely grateful to Li Zongjio. Shirlei also looked at Li Zongjio in front of him. Li Zongjio looked so young, but he actually dared to stand out. He hoped that he wasn't a useless fool. However, now it seemed that even the black-robed man from Qingyuan Villa was extremely afraid of Li Zongjio. It seemed that Li Zongjio's strength wasn't weak. What are you waiting for? Kill Yang Feiyu for me. Shirlei was naturally able to tell that this was the enmity between the black-robed man and Li Zongjio. Li Zongjio was naturally delayed by the black-robed man, and Yang Feiyu naturally had to take advantage of this good opportunity to act. Immediately, 3 Shi family experts moved towards Yang Feiyu. Li Zongjio also gently moved the fire-tipped spear in his hand. Suddenly, a terrifying heat spread out from the fire-tipped spear. Boom! The 3 Shi family experts were instantly sucked in by the spear chi released by Li Zongjio. Bang! Bang! Their bodies fell to the ground. After being engulfed by the heat, their bodies were burned red. The 3 experts of the 6th grade Yuan Master Realm were directly obliterated. Li Changjiang, not only will I kill you, but I will also kill everyone who supports you, including your companions and the forces behind you. Li Zongjio pointed the spear in his hand at Li Changjiang. The meaning of these words was very obvious. Shirlei must also die. Don't talk nonsense. Set up the Black Zen Buddha killing formation. Li Zongjio was no longer angry. Since the enemy was standing in front of him, there was nothing to be angry about. After capturing him, there would naturally be opportunities to torture Li Zongjio. Originally, after escaping from Luoxia City, he had been looking for an opportunity to kill his way back. However, he hadn't found a suitable opportunity. Now that Li Zongjio had taken the initiative to come to him, Li Changjiang was naturally overjoyed. Black Zen Buddha killing formation. Immediately, the 7 black-robed men that Li Changjiang brought with him landed around Li Zongjio. Brother, be careful. This Black Zen Buddha killing formation seems to be the Black Zen sect's evil killing formation. Yang Feiyu couldn't help but say. After all, Li Zongjio had appeared to save him. No matter what, they were now on the same boat. Chapter 244. Li Zongjio did not take Yang Feiyu's words to heart. What evil killing formation? What Li Zongjio had experienced in his previous life was not something that people of your level could imagine. If that terrifying power were to be gathered together, it could even be an existence that could destroy the world. To Li Zongjio, these child-level array formations were really not worth mentioning. Child's play. Li Zongjio smiled disdainfully. The fire-tipped spear in his hand spun easily and immediately rushed forward with a terrifying aura. There were still people around him. A few experts from the Black Zen sect had just condensed their Yuan Qi and were about to set up a formation with the people around them. But in the next second, they saw Li Zongjio rush out. Boom! The fire-tipped spear was surrounded by intense fire Yuan Qi and instantly swallowed the people in front of him. Li Zongjio's spear suddenly pierced the opponent's body. The violent flame energy directly swallowed the people in front of him. What? Black Zen finger. Seeing that they did not have the chance to set up the formation and Li Zongjio suddenly appeared in front of them, the people at the side were shocked. They immediately changed their tactics and pointed at Li Zongjio. Li Zongjio did not care about the power gathered on the opponent's finger and directly punched out. This punch instantly broke the opponent's finger. The person retracted his hand. His strongest finger was directly destroyed by the opponent. Such a cruel method was unbearable. The fire-tipped spear swept out again and directly sent the two people in front of him flying. Eat my spear! A vigorous essence force was released, and a figure leaped out, thrusting his spear towards Li Zongjio. However, Li Zongjio's speed was even faster than his. Facing this spear that had suddenly appeared, his body took a small step back and the fire-tipped spear was like a spring, directly rushing forward with a boom. Boom! The Black Zen sect expert who suddenly attacked reacted quickly. He retracted his spear and blocked in front of him, blocking Li Zongjio's terrifying Yuan Qi. A mere first-grade Yuan general, you want to, When this person blocked this move, he had already probed Li Zongjio's strength. He originally wanted to mock Li Zongjio, but he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his abdomen. He didn't know when Li Zongjio had once again stabbed out with his spear, and it was this spear that had pierced through his heart. Boom! Fire Yuan Qi instantly spread out and burned the person's body clean. In the blink of an eye, for people. Let's go together. The remaining three people also understood that Li Zongjio was strong and could not give him a chance to breathe. Especially now that he had the upper hand, they had a chance to force him to reveal his weakness. Yang Feiyu was dumbfounded as he watched Li Zongjio's performance. It had only been a few seconds from start to finish. In total, it did not exceed 30 seconds, and he had already killed 4 people in a row. The strength of these 4 people was not simple. The weakest was at the Yuan General level. These experts from the Black Zen sect were all at the Yuan General level. They thought that they were dead for sure. However, Li Zongjio suddenly appeared like a god of death, slaughtering everyone in this place. It was incomparably shocking to see. Shi Lei knew the strength of these people. Especially the person with the spear. It was the person who stabbed their great elder to death last night. Now, with this person's strength, he could not even last 2 moves in front of Li Zongjio. By the second move, he was already dead. Where did this monster come from? When did the Yang family invite such an expert? Suddenly, Shi Lei thought of something. Since now was the time for Li Zongjio and the black-robed man to settle their grudges, then what was he doing here? He immediately gave his subordinates a look. His subordinates immediately understood and quietly retreated towards the meteorite in front of them. If they could kill the Yang family and obtain the meteorite, then it would be killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Killing 2 birds with 1 stone, truly a great harvest. The 3 people who rushed up from behind did not last long. Li Changjiang saw 3 heads fly up in an orderly manner. Although he already knew that Li Zongjio's strength was a little strange, and that Li Zongjio seemed to have obtained some terrifying inheritance, the speed of his strength was almost amazing. How old was he to be able to kill people like flies at such a young age? Even this Yuan general level expert was nothing in front of Li Zongjio. Gulyalu. 3 heads rolled on the ground. One of the heads also fell at Li Changjiang's feet. Li Changjiang kicked the head away. At the same time, he clasped his palms together and made a big circle in front of him, finally landing on his body. Li Changjiang stared at Li Zongjio in front of him. At this moment, that terrifying power was also surging from his body. Everything I have today is thanks to you. Li Zongjio, become my nourishment. Black Buddha technique, 6-armed demon Buddha. From Li Changjiang's back, a few bones suddenly broke through the skin and flesh of his body, and a few arms grew out like a spider. When these arms spread out, a terrifying aura also began to brew. When Li Zongjio saw this scene, he suddenly came to a realization. Wasn't this the unique method of the Qingyuan Villa? Soul Beast Fusion Technique. Directly fusing the key parts of these talented soul beasts into the body of the cultivator. After being washed and glued by some very strong medicine, it finally became this state. You're neither a human nor a ghost. Qingyuan Villa was destined to be destroyed from the beginning. Li Zhongjio couldn't help but shake his head and say. Obviously, he was extremely disdainful of such a despicable method. At the same time, he sympathized with Li Changjiang in front of him. In order to obtain power, he actually turned himself into something that was neither a human nor a ghost. How pitiful! Li Zhongjio's usual way of dealing with such pitiful people was to be very merciful and generously send them to hell. In their next life, if they still remembered, they could also seek revenge from him. Die! Li Zhongjio saw Li Changjiang carrying his 6 legs to kill him. The speed of these 6 legs was also very fast. Li Zhongjio's fire-tipped spear was also constantly colliding with the other party. Ding ding ding! The long spear vibrated. Suddenly, the other party and 2 bones suddenly pierced out. Li Zhongjio's hand loosened, and the fire-tipped spear in his hand was directly snatched away by the other party. Bang! The 2 bones pierced the ground and directly propped up Li Changjiang's body. After his body rose up, 2 more bones protruded out. They directly clamped Li Zhongjio up. Li Zhongjio, you didn't expect this, right? Trash will always be trash. With this low roar, a foul stench came out of his mouth. Li Zhongjio's face didn't have the slightest trace of panic. Instead, he looked indifferently at the person in front of him who had fallen into madness. 2 more bones suddenly attacked, wanting to directly penetrate Li Zhongjio. However, Li Zhongjio didn't hesitate to hit Li Changjiang's head with his palm. Bang! Li Changjiang only felt as if he was ruthlessly smashed by tens of thousands of tons of rocks. His whole body couldn't withstand it, and his bone-like hands couldn't help but loosen. Li Zhongjio's body fell to the ground. He twisted his body a little. The hardness of these bones was not bad, but it still hurt a little from being clamped. Li Changjiang, who was a little dazed by Li Zhongjio's palm, also swayed his body. He felt a little incredulous. How is it possible? My body has long been indestructible. Li Changjiang felt as if his body was almost broken. The power of Li Zhongjio's palm just now was really terrifying. If his body hadn't been tempered, it would have even been tempered into a golden body. However, after being hit by Li Zhongjio just now, he only felt as if his head was about to explode. Chapter 245. When Li Changjiang finally regained his senses, he saw Li Zhongjio standing in front of him. At this moment, Li Zhongjio's body was intact, and there was a trace of contempt and mockery on his face. Seeing this, Li Changjiang was even more furious. What right did this junior have to laugh at him? How dare you be so presumptuous in front of me? I want you dead. I am the master of the Li family. All of you are trash. Li Changjiang's stomach suddenly burst open, and something could be seen coming out of Li Changjiang's body. It looked extremely terrifying. It seems that your secret technique has not been completely successful. Li Zhongjio looked at Li Changjiang and said, the so-called self-enmeshed in a cocoon was what Li Changjiang was like. This was because the power that Li Changjiang had fused with had exceeded the limit that he could bear. This caused Li Changjiang to be unable to control and suppress the power in his body when he was attacked from the outside. This resulted in the current situation. The thing that broke out of Li Changjiang's body was an ugly spider. The bones on Li Changjiang's back were the spider's legs. However, Li Changjiang had already been devoured by the spider and was completely swallowed up. No, Li Changjiang knelt on the ground. His entire body no longer existed. It was directly devoured by the spider. Many parts of its body were also wriggling. This pitch-black King Kong spider also woke up and stared at Li Zhongjio in front of it. Although it did not know what was going on, it seemed that Li Changjiang had already died. How could he die so easily? Li Zhongjio was also a little surprised. He hadn't even made a move yet, but this guy had already died. That guy didn't give him any face at all. This battle couldn't be considered a satisfying one at all. Although I don't know what you are, you can forget about living. Li Zhongjio looked at the spider in front of him and said indifferently. The King Kong spider felt Li Zhongjio's hostility and murderous aura and growled. However, after weighing the pros and cons, the King Kong spider actually rushed away with a swoosh. Its 6 legs were also constantly shaking, trying to escape. In the process of the King Kong spider running away, Li Zongjio flicked his finger and a flame fell on the King Kong spider's back. Boom! The King Kong spider's back immediately burned with a raging flame. Therefore, the King Kong spider was running with a pile of flames on its back. Looking at the burning appearance of the flame was really unexpected and funny. Almost 100 meters away, it suddenly heard a loud bang. The King Kong spider was directly smashed into pieces. This was a method of the Black King Kong spider's back. When this thing rushed out, Li Zongjio could control its power. After a period of time, it would automatically produce a violent explosion. It's an easy death for you. Li Zongjio took the scroll in his hand and then directly burned it with the Black King Kong spider's Black King Kong spider. Yang Feiyu, on the other hand, stared blankly at the scene before him. What exactly did he experience today? First, a man grew spider legs, then this man turned into a spider, and most importantly, Li Zongjio not only killed them easily, but at the same time, his palm could also emit a terrifying flame. The world of these people was too scary. However, no matter what, Yang Feiyu managed to keep his life. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to see these things. He wouldn't have known that the world was so vast and that so many strange things had appeared. It was truly shocking. Not good, that's the meteorite. Yang Feiyu suddenly remembered that the meteorite was the main target. He didn't know where Shirley and the others had gone. Obviously, they had quietly left during the battle just now in order to get the meteorite. If Shirley got there first and returned to Shakong City, it would be harder than ascending to the heavens to snatch it back. Li Zongjio naturally could not forget this extremely important matter. In fact, when Li Zongjio approached the meteorite, he already knew what it was. Therefore, Li Zongjio was not flustered at all. I didn't expect that guy's boundless stone was actually extracted from it. Li Zongjio came to a realization. Shirley and the rest had already successfully stored the meteorite into their storage rings, and the group was rushing towards the direction of Lower Kong City. Yang Yen and the others were also ruthlessly suppressed in the valley. Now, no one was chasing after Shirley. However, it would not be so easy to take the treasure away from Li Zongjio. Boom! Li Zongjio's entire body rose from the ground. After stepping into the Yuan General realm, Li Zongjio's degree of control over Yuan power was already able to achieve the effect of flight. Although he could not fly too far this time, he had already surpassed many people. Powerful Yuan power burst forth from his feet, carrying Li Zongjio's body into the air as he chased after Shirley. The power that erupted from Li Zongjio in an instant was almost too much for Yang Feiyu to react. What? He can fly at this level? Yang Feiyu watched as Li Zongjio flew before his eyes and then disappeared. This kind of shock was indescribable. Even now, Yang Feiyu's heart was already numb. It was not the case at all. There were too many shocking things that he had experienced today. If he were to count them, it would be impossible to count them. Monster, this is a true monster. Before this, Yang Feiyu was confident in his cultivation talent. Although there was a gap between him and the top geniuses cultivated by some super families, Yang Feiyu believed that as long as he persevered and worked hard, he would definitely be able to surpass this gap. However, when he saw Li Zongjio, Yang Feiyu had a feeling that even if he devoted his entire life, he would not be able to catch up to him. This kind of person was simply meant to be surpassed. The power that he possessed and his own level was simply not something that ordinary people could imagine. Even if those geniuses from Royal City came, they might not necessarily be a match for this person. If one had to use two words to describe Li Zongjio, it would be invincible. This kind of person was an invincible existence. Oh no, father and the rest are still in a bitter battle. Yang Feiyu suddenly slapped his thigh and hurriedly picked up his fire-tipped spear. When Yang Feiyu picked up the fire-tipped spear from the ground, he had an illusion. The fire-tipped spear in his hand was even heavier than before. What? How is this possible? Yang Feiyu looked at the fire-tipped spear in his hand in shock. When he poured Yuan power into it, he immediately felt the power of the fire-tipped spear in his hand surging violently. Within the fire-tipped spear, there was a Yuan rune array. When Yuan power was poured into it, it would trigger the Yuan rune array in his hand. This power would immediately surge out like a surging tide. It was extremely terrifying. However, after Li Zongjio used it once, the power of the flames within the fire-tipped spear had become even more powerful. At the same time, the spear itself had also been tempered by the lightning fire, removing some impurities and refining itself to an even more pinnacle level. My fire-tipped spear is already at the peak of its type. Now that it has been tempered once again, it has directly risen to a new level and level. This is simply unbelievable. That Li Zongjio is truly a god. Feeling the changes in the fire-tipped spear in his hand, in his heart he was even more impressed with Li Zongjio's strength. Yang Feiyu once again charged forward, while Li Zongjio's figure soared into the air. Very quickly he caught up with Shirlei in a dense forest. At this moment, Shirlei was also protected by the multi-faced fox beside him. The multi-faced fox recognized Li Zongjio as the person who killed his companion last night. The multi-faced fox was also very clear about this terrifying Li Zongjio. The members of the Lupus gang were all killed by Li Zongjio. Not even their corpses were left behind, only a pile of ashes placed in front of him. Young Master Shirlei, since we have already helped you obtain the meteorite, the mission has been completed. Remember to settle the balance when we return. The multi-faced fox said to Shirlei. Multi-faced fox, what do you mean? Are you trying to run away? I guarantee that you won't get a single cent. Shirlei immediately roared. These people were actually so untrustworthy. They wanted to leave before the mission was completed. Our contract has already been completed. If you have anything you are not clear about, you can go to the Rain Pavilion to complete the handover. Remember, the balance is very important. The multi-faced fox immediately wanted to turn around and lead his subordinates to leave from another direction in the forest. However, all of a sudden, the surrounding trees collapsed with a loud bang. Boom! The fallen trees formed an encirclement around them, trapping everyone in it. The multi-faced fox's heart sank. It seemed that they could not escape. Since you are already here, don't be in such a hurry to leave. Li Zongjio's voice sounded. Then, he descended from the sky and landed in front of Shirlei and the others, standing with his hands behind his back. Chapter 246. Speaking of which, Li Zongjio felt a little embarrassed. He, the evil lord of this generation, was actually hunting down a junior. It was really a little embarrassing. Fortunately, no one could recognize Li Zongjio, so it was not a big deal. Moreover, these people had already conspired with Li Changjiang. Based on this, they had already been sentenced to death by Li Zongjio. When the multi-faced fox saw Li Zongjio descending in front of him, his heart sank. Shirlei took the lead and said disdainfully while looking at Li Zongjio in front of him. He's just one person, what's there to be afraid of? Everyone, the Shi family will give 1 million gold coins to whoever kills him. 1 million gold coins was not a high price for a Supreme General level enemy, but it was definitely not a low price either. Under normal circumstances, once one fought with others, it was very likely that one would provoke a Supreme General level enemy. Now that he had killed this Supreme General level enemy, he could even get money. This 1 million gold coins directly went into one's pocket. As long as one was a human, one would be excited and even eager to make a move. The multi-faced fox pondered for a while. It was definitely not easy to catch Li Zongjio in front of him. Li Zongjio's mastery of Yuan power, in addition to his mysterious means, was able to kill Luo Lang and the others back then. In fact, the multi-faced fox had already been afraid of Li Zongjio for a long time. This was a life and death process. If he made the slightest mistake, he would end up dead. The multi-faced fox immediately gritted his teeth. Young hero, this person and I are in an employer-employee relationship. I don't insist on being your enemy. We won't accept this business. The multi-faced fox immediately raised his hand and said, then put away his bow and arrow. Li Zongjio was an expert in archery. Naturally, he had to hide in the dark. Since he was already in the open, how could he have the opportunity to display his advantage? Moreover, he did not know how strong Li Zongjio was. Li Zongjio was stronger than he had imagined. Therefore, surrendering now was the wisest move. Li Zongjio glanced at the multi-faced fox in front of him. Only the multi-faced fox surrendered. Even the subordinates of the multi-faced fox were not willing to appear. After all, 1,000,000 gold coins was a fatal temptation to them. The most direct result was, of course, death. Today, none of you can leave, Li Zongjio said, shaking his head. He was not a kind person, he had his own principles. Even if the multi-faced fox wanted to disassociate himself, it did not mean that he did not want to kill him. Your Excellency, are you trying to force us into a dead end? Hearing Li Zongjio's words, the multi-faced fox was shocked. Soon, his face turned gloomy. Since Li Zongjio did not intend to let him go, there was nothing else to say. He could only fight to the death. Of course, you can choose to kill yourself, Li Zongjio said. In Li Zongjio's eyes, he didn't put these people in front of him in his eyes at all. If they were a little sensible and chose to commit suicide, then this matter would be considered over and he wouldn't have to do anything. A cornered dog will jump over a wall. Since you want me dead, I will not let you live. Just as the multi-faced fox and Li Zongjio were negotiating, Shirley had secretly organized his men. Soon, a group of people rushed towards Li Zongjio. Kill him! Shirley's subordinates attacked one after another. Seeing this, Li Zongjio flicked his finger. The obsidian fire spread out and turned into sparks of fire. In an instant, it entered the bodies of these people. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. These people raised the sabers in their hands and were ready to kill Li Zongjio. However, they already felt their bodies gradually melting. All of their strength could not be gathered together. In the end, they fell to the ground with a plop. Their bodies were completely melted. Boom! It was as if a cloud of smoke spread out and burned on the spot. Some people wanted to retreat when they saw this scene. However, Li Zongjio's fire followed closely and instantly entered their bodies with a boom. He could only make a horrified expression before his entire body was burned to ashes. 9 consecutive shots! The multi-faced fox exclaimed. At the same time, the bow in his hand fluctuated continuously. Boom, 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 boom. Continuous rumbling sounds could be heard, and the air in front of him seemed to be torn apart. It was directly torn into countless pieces. This terrifying aura blasted out and swept toward Li Zongjio. Li Zongjio stood in the same spot. Facing this sudden attack, he did not panic. The 9 sharp arrows shot by the opponent directly circled in the air and swept toward Li Zongjio from different angles. Li Zongjio opened his palm. Suddenly, a flame rose from his palm. The flame suddenly rolled up and immediately swept away the arrows in front of him. Boom, boom. Before any of the arrows could even get close to Li Zongjio, they were already enveloped by the flames and burned to ashes. Li Zongjio's obsidian fire. It seemed to form a very domineering self-protection barrier. Therefore, no matter which direction the opponent attacked from, they could easily take it down. He easily blocked it. What? Seeing that his arrows were burned into powder, the multi-faced fox was extremely shocked. Without hesitation, he directly turned and rushed toward the big tree. The only way at this moment was to escape. Of course, this was on the premise that he could escape. Li Zongjio pinched a fireball with one hand and threw it forward. This fireball instantly drew a perfect arc in the sky and directly landed on the multi-faced fox's body. Ah! The multi-faced fox screamed. His body directly turned into a pile of ashes in the air. Shirley watched helplessly as more than 10 people were burned to ashes. Some of them didn't even have time to scream. However, Shirley could feel how intense the pain these people endured before they died was. These people couldn't be described as simple. The process of being burned to death must have been very long. It was really shocking. Now that everyone was dead, only Shirley was left. He stood alone among the ashes, trembling in fear as he watched Li Zongjio in front of him approach. If you kill me, you will never know where the meteorite is. Shirley had accurately grasped his final bargaining chip. If he couldn't even negotiate with Li Zongjio with this bargaining chip, then he would just have to fight to the death. However, Shirley was still so young. He did not want to die, and he did not want to die so soon. Hearing Shirley's words, Li Zongjio's mouth curved into a cold smile. You still want to threaten me? You want to threaten the great evil lord, Li Zongjio? Even if you don't want to say it, Li Zongjio has at least 100 ways to make you spit out the location of the item. However, that would be a waste of time and energy. You don't come over. As long as you don't kill me, I will give it to you. How about it? I am still very young. I don't want to die, I don't want to die. Shirley suddenly cried and shouted. Under the pressure of Li Zongjio's aura, he directly knelt down in front of Li Zongjio. With both hands, he handed over his storage ring to Li Zongjio. This is the meteorite. Take it. I won't tell my father, I will never tell my father. Shirley said repeatedly. His actions were to make Li Zongjio let him go. Li Zongjio had been out for so long, of course, he had to abide by the rules of Jianghu. How could he not be honest? If he said he would kill Shirley, then he would kill Shirley. There was no room for negotiation on this point. Li Zongjio took the storage ring from Shirley's hand. He revealed a trace of a smile. You've done well. Hearing Li Zongjio's words, Shirley raised his head, thinking that there might be a way out for him. However, when he raised his head, he saw a black flame descending like a lotus flower. Boom! Shirley's whole body was swallowed by the flame. Although he was very spineless, Shirley did the right thing. In front of Li Zongjio, no matter if he resisted or escaped, it was futile. The only thing he could do was to lie on the ground quietly. Wait for death. Chapter 247. Li Zongjio's powerful strength was a desperate struggle for anyone. He opened the storage ring. Shirley was really a coward. He took the initiative to give the storage ring to Yi Shiwen. Inside the storage ring, there was a stone the size of a rice jar. The stone was completely black, and on the surface, it looked like a metal ball. There were also some potholes on it, as if it was a pit on the ground. It's really you. Yi Shiwen looked at the black stone in his hand. This was just the surface. The core power was the power of a crystal stone hidden in the meteor. This crystal stone was very famous in Yi Shiwen's previous life. That frightening aura was truly shocking. In Yi Shiwen's previous life, the person who was in charge of this crystal stone was one of Li Zongjio's early opponents. He was an primitive emperor expert. However, he was trampled under Li Zongjio's feet later on. However, this crystal stone was also known as the Boundless Stone. The effect of the never-ending stone was extremely obvious in the early stages. It could increase the mental strength cultivation speed of the primitive emperor realm by up to 50%. At the same time, it had a very obvious effect in assisting mental strength attacks. It could be considered as a divine tool among the mental strength masters. This level of existence made some mental strength masters scramble for it. The appearance of this thing is likely to attract the attention of some powerful mental strength masters. I have to be careful. Li Zongjio kept the meteorite for the time being. After all, this thing existed. It was also extremely easy to attract some experts. With Li Zongjio's current mental strength, it was still very dangerous for him to face some powerful mental strength masters. These mental strength masters could kill people invisibly, just like when Xiaoya went to deal with Luo Sha and the others. Under normal circumstances, with Xiaoya's strength, she would definitely not be a match for the three of them. However, after Xiaoya attacked, she directly hypnotized the three of them. In this way, she would directly send them into a dream. It would be an easy task to kill them. However, I have the obsidian flame protecting me now. It is almost impossible for ordinary mental strength masters to kill me silently. Since I have the item, there is no need to stay any longer. Li Zongjio did not turn back to destroy the Shi family. Shirley and the others from the Shi family disappeared on the spot, along with the meteorite from outer space. In addition, Qingyuan Mountain Villa had already made contact with the Shi family. Now that they could not find the person or the item, the Shi family would not have an easy time. Even if Li Zongjio did not take action, the Shi family would not be able to hold on for long. The Wolf Ivory Mountain Valley was also in a state of chaos. Originally, Shi Wuhan and Yang Yan could be said to be evenly matched. In fact, Shi Wuhan was faintly suppressing Yang Yan. However, after using half of the Ice Demon Stone, it suddenly became powerless. It directly shattered on the spot. At this time, Shi Wuhan was also shocked. However, there was no doubt that this item had been tampered with. It was not a complete ice demon stone, but a fake one. Therefore, it caused Shi Wuhan to be instantly crushed by Yang Yan. Yang Feiyu, who went to fight for the meteorite, also withdrew. Yang Feiyu's strength was not weak. After joining the battle, the Shi family members once again felt a strong pressure. Most importantly, Shi Wuhan only saw Yang Feiyu return. He did not see his son, Shi Lei, come back. Quickly go and find out Shi Lei's whereabouts. Shi Wuhan immediately roared. Two elders also immediately withdrew and rushed into the valley. After a while, they returned to report. Shi Lei was nowhere to be seen. Young family brat, where is my son Shi Lei? Shi Wuhan immediately roared at Yang Feiyu. At this time, he had a feeling that he wanted to eat Yang Feiyu. However, Yang Feiyu only smiled disdainfully. Your son is asking me? He is not my son. Why are you asking me? Hearing Yang Feiyu's unreasonable provocation, Shi Wuhan's lungs were about to explode from anger. He gnashed his teeth and hated Yang Feiyu to the bone. Today I will kill you. A terrifying force blasted towards Yang Feiyu. However, it was easily blocked by Yang Yan. The fire dragon shears in his hand once again regained its divine might. Facing Shi Wuhan, Yang Yan said in an indifferent tone, Shi Wuhan, you want to kill my son? Do you think you have the ability to do so? Yang Yan was naturally happy to see Shi Wuhan flustered and exasperated. At the same time, after his strength recovered, he suppressed Shi Wuhan in front of him. Initially, the Shi family had invited quite a number of experts, intending to keep the Yang family here for good. However, on the way here, Li Zongjio had already killed the entire Lupus gang. The multi-faced fox and the others also brought people to escort Shi Lei. However, they did not return. It was likely that they had met with misfortune. Or it could be said that something else had happened that Shi Wuhan did not know about. As a result, the Shi family's momentum was also scattered. There was no way for them to concentrate their strength to defeat the Yang family. Do you feel that there is no helper? Don't worry. If the Shi family is prepared, the Yang family will naturally treat you with great gifts. Yang Yan's voice faded. Yang Hongyu, who was beside him, immediately released a signal flare, which soared into the sky. Boom! It exploded in the sky. The moment the signal flare appeared, the people in the sky were shocked. Immediately, a large group of elite cavalrymen, who had been lying in ambush on the surrounding mountain peaks, rushed down. What? The surrounding vibrations and whistling sounds caused the people below to be startled. Kill! The Shi family's position was instantly destroyed. Many people were directly assassinated by the cavalry that swooped down. Savage Horse Hero Group. When Shi Wuhan saw the cavalry that suddenly appeared, his pupils immediately shrank. These people had been lurking at the side for a long time. To think that Yang Yan also had the intention to kill him. I have already said that the Shi family will not leave today. Yang Yan said with a cold smile. The two families had been fighting for so many years. They knew clearly what each other was thinking. Therefore, Yang Yan also knew very well what these people would do. And he was also prepared. Yang Hongyu, who was beside him, also walked forward and ordered the people of the Savage Horse Hero Group. This plan was also provided by Yang Hongyu. Last night, Yang Hongyu had rushed back to the city and gathered his men. Early in the morning, these men had been hiding in the surroundings since the start of the battle. As long as Yang Hongyu gave the order, they would immediately attack and kill all of these people. I didn't expect you to come too. He Xiong looked at the leader of the Savage Horse Hero Group with a trace of surprise in his eyes. The two of them were acquaintances and had cooperated with each other before. The temperament of the Savage Horse Hero Group and the others was quite to their liking. Moreover, they were also good people. The sudden appearance of the Savage Horse Hero Group directly caught the Shi family off guard. They did not expect that the other party had been hiding until now. Retreat! Shi Wuhan shouted. At this moment, it was already impossible for him to reap any benefits from this. I don't know where those people from Qingyuan Manor are hiding. Although I didn't have much hope for them in the beginning, at least you guys keep your word a little bit. However, at this moment, Shi Wuhan probably did not know that the people he counted on had all been burned into a pile of ashes. Even if they wanted to come out and help the Shi family, it was already impossible. They can't escape. Fire dragon scissors, kill them. After paying such a high price, how could Yang Yan let the Shi family escape so easily? He had to pay a painful price for it. The fire dragon scissors suddenly bloomed with a terrifying light, spreading forward. In an instant, the fire dragon scissors turned into 2 dragons, engulfing the Shi family people. Rumble. My leg. Run quickly. Retreat quickly. They are crazy. Puff. Smoke immediately rose from all over the place. In the end, Shi Wuhan was barely able to escape under the protection of a few elders who went all out. As for the remaining people, they were completely left behind in the Wolf Ivory Mountain range. In this bloody battle, more than 9 elders of the Shi family were killed. Even if Shi Wuhan could escape, it was estimated that the Shi family would not be able to continue its former glory and would soon be replaced by other forces. Chapter 248. Some itinerant cultivators in the vicinity of Lower Kingstown had witnessed this bloody battle. At the same time, they had also witnessed the rise and fall of a great power. The one that had fallen was naturally the Shi family. Although they weren't completely sure, since the Yang family dared to do this, they naturally had a way to completely crush the Shi family and never give them a chance to rise again. Feiyu, where did Shi Lei and the black-robed men go? Yang Yan asked in a deep voice as he and the others rested on the side and directed the cleanup process on the battlefield. Given the strength of the Shi family and the preparations that the other party had made, it was naturally obvious that these people were not weak. They were also very well prepared, so it was impossible to let them go so easily. However, the speed at which the battle ended was also dumbfounding. Some people couldn't believe it. That was why Yang Yan asked this question. Not only that, but the protector of Wuxue Pill sect, Li Zongjiu, had also disappeared. The meteorite had been taken away, so it was very likely that it was with Shi Lei and the black-robed men who had disappeared. Being able to defeat the Shi family this time was already a considerable victory. With such an advantage, the Yang family was extremely excited. The Yang family had already profited greatly. Of course, if they could obtain the meteorite, it would be a double blessing. Father, those black-robed men were all killed by the expert invited by third brother. In addition, Shi Lei, the multi-faced fox, and the others left with the meteor. However, Protector Li has already chased after them. I don't know how the battle is going. Those black-robed men were all killed by him? Although they didn't know the identity of the other party for the time being, there was no doubt that the appearance of the Ice Demon Stone was definitely related to this faction. As for that Li Zongjiu, he had killed so many people without making a sound. Furthermore, he had relied on his own strength to do so. This was indeed a little exaggerated. Yes, if I'm not wrong, the strength of those 7 people was above the Yuan general realm. However, in front of Protector Li, they didn't have the slightest ability to fight back. Yang Feiyu told them about the shocking scene he had seen. Even if he told them about it, most people wouldn't believe him, but it was the truth. What? Second brother, don't talk nonsense. Even Yang Feihong couldn't believe it. 1 against 7, and it was an instant kill. How is this possible? Is he Superman? Even Superman couldn't be so powerful. This was too much of a boast. I saw it with my own eyes. Protector Li's strength far surpasses ours. Seeing the look of admiration on Yang Feiyu's face, Yang Yan was slightly surprised. One must know that Yang Yan understood his son very well. Yang Feiyu's arrogance was even more so. It was as if he was the only one in the world who knew how to cultivate. However, this also proved that Yang Feiyu was extremely talented. There must be a reason why Yang Feiyu admired Li Zongjiu so much. Hongyu, you must find Protector Li when you return to the city. Our Yang family also needs to make friends with such powerhouses. If he was already so powerful at such a young age, how powerful would he be in a few more years? Furthermore, to have such a cultivation at such a young age, the power behind him must not be simple. It definitely wasn't as simple as it seemed. There must be an even more terrifying existence behind Li Zongjio. It was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to make friends with such a person. They couldn't afford to mess it up. Yes, father. Yang Hongyu hurriedly replied. Yang Hongyu had finally gained the attention of his father by assigning him such an important task. Feiyu, take some people and search for Shirley. Find out what happened. Yang Feiyu once again took some people and chased after Shirley. However, they might not be able to catch up with him. Perhaps he had already been dealt with by Li Zongjio. 2 days later, Li Zongjio had already left Lower Kong City behind. The Heavenly Star Medicine Manor's recruitment was only set up in second-class cities. Cities like Northern Medicine City weren't qualified either. In the second-class cities, Jade Wave Giant City was still a distance away from Li Zongjio, and the nearest one was Northern Medicine City. To pass through Northern Medicine City, one must first pass through the boundary of Northern Medicine City. After Li Zongjio left Lower Kong City, he headed straight for Northern Medicine City. It was already a day and a half before he arrived at Northern Medicine City. Along the way, Li Zongjio had also collected some medicinal herbs in the depths of the forest. These herbs were only used to refine elixirs. The real top-grade elixirs were not so easy to collect. Just the Guardian Soul Beast alone was enough to make you suffer. Initially, Li Zongjio came to Northern Medicine City in a hurry to kill everyone. Originally, he was only looking for trouble with the Northern Medicine Alliance. However, the City Lord Mansion appeared halfway, so Li Zongjio conveniently killed the City Lord. Li Zongjio did not know the current situation of Northern Medicine City. This time, he came to change his horse. Northern Medicine City, City Lord Mansion. At this time, the City Lord Mansion of Northern Medicine City had been replaced by a handsome young man. When this young man took office, it could be said that people from all over came to congratulate him. No one dared to ignore this young man. Logically speaking, when such a young man took office, many of the old forces in the city would definitely make things difficult for him. However, this time, it was unusual. They were incomparably supportive of some of the decisions made by this young man called Zhang Yu. Whoosh! A white figure landed in the courtyard. He quickly rushed into the study. Sir, urgent news. Zhang Yu stood in front of the desk, holding a pen in his hand. It hovered above the paper. When the pen in his hand fell, it carried a trace of cold light. It was done in one breath. On the paper, he wrote the word, sword, which was taller than a person. When the pen in his hand left the paper, the table also collapsed with a boom. The collapsed table made Zhang Yu frown. This last move, returning heart like arrow, I still can't control it well. After a long sigh, he put the pen in his hand aside and wiped his hands. Present it. The man in white quickly handed over the file in his hand. Zhang Yu opened the scroll in his hand and carefully read it. The corner of his mouth curved into a smile. Li Zongjio, what a good Li Zongjio. I've finally waited for you. Order the entire city to be under martial law for 3 days. No one is allowed to enter or leave. In addition, summon the patriarchs of the 4 big families to me for a meeting. That Li Zongjio must stay in the city. Sir. Then, Zhang Yu put the scroll in his hand into a drawer. There were already 3 similar scrolls in the drawer. Just 2 days ago, all kinds of information were quickly sent to him. Now, the entire Dinghuan province knew about the meteor. To others, its whereabouts were unknown. However, to Zhang Yu, it was very clear that it was on Li Zongjio. Ever since he had taken over this place, the first important person he had seen was Li Zongjio. The information only showed that Li Zongjio was only 16 years old. However, in the Fog Snow Palette sect, he had become a fog protector. Furthermore, he had recently led his own family and seemed to be on the rise. In Zhang Yu's eyes, all these things were very funny. Whether he was a dragon or a worm, he was destined to be born. No matter how hard an ordinary person tried, they couldn't change their fate. Only a person like him was destined to be superior. There will always be 2 worms who want to change their fate. I'll let you know that even if a worm changes its fate, it's still a worm. The corner of his mouth curved into a sinister smile. All along, Zhang Yu's image in Northern Medicine City was sunny and upright. Even his smile was extremely infectious. However, when there was no one around, he would reveal his true colors. Chapter 249. The post station was located not far from the city gate. There was a place specially set aside for the preparation of horses. Li Zongjio was also sitting on a chair to rest. He was also flipping through the daily updates of the Xingyan Dynasty School. This was a very good invention, but in some small places, there were not many people who could read. This thing was also called an official report. Some of the things published in the report were also things that the Xingyan Dynasty wanted people to know. For ordinary people, it was enough to be able to obtain the information in the report. Relatively speaking, it was still quite authoritative. Next autumn, the crown prince will be appointed. So soon, Li Zongjio looked at the report. Now, the dozen or so princes of the royal family were all driven out of the palace. Some went to the border, some went to the border, some went to study, and some went to do business. Of course, it was not as simple as imagined, but in short, these princes could not be idle. If they wanted to be appointed as the crown prince, they had to make some achievements and let people know their strength. They also had to let the people of the world see their strength. Of course, there were also quite a lot of invisible battles. After all, they only had a year. In this year, they had to make some achievements and at the same time, they had to save their own lives. They had to become the master of the Xingyan dynasty and dominate the world. Who wouldn't want such supreme power? If I remember correctly, the crown prince seems to be the most inconspicuous 14th prince. This boy is very insidious, Li Zongjio thought. Li Zongjio still remembered these things from his previous life. After all, Li Zongjio had lived for 3,000 years. Most of his time was in the Xingyan dynasty. The changes in the world and some changes in the situation were closely related. He did not know if there would be other changes. After all, after his rebirth, many things would change. For example, Li Changjiang could have been in charge of the Li family, but because of Li Zongjio's appearance, his life was rewritten. Many fates would also be rewritten. For example, King Qing Yuan, who wanted to cause trouble. Oh right, the 14th prince, because he killed King Qing Yuan, became a favorable competitor and finally succeeded in becoming the crown prince. Li Zongjio just read the report to pass some time. It was a hot afternoon, but Li Zongjio heard the sound of branches. He looked up and saw that the city gate was closing, and the notice board had already posted a martial law order. The reason for the martial law order was very nonsensical. In order to prevent the spread of the poison in the city was cleaning up. During this period, no one could enter or leave the city. Basically, Northern Medicine City was a place to grow spiritual herbs. Who didn't know the principle of keeping one's health and getting rid of insects? How could they use such an excuse? Did they really think that the ordinary people were idiots? Although they knew that the other party had casually found a reason, once the city was under martial law, if they still wanted to force their way out, they would be chopped into 18 pieces or thrown into the dungeon. What's going on? Li Zongjio looked at the tightly shut city gate. In addition, a large number of city guards had also set up a formation at the city gate. No one was allowed to approach the city gate. Otherwise, they would be killed immediately. This kind of ferocious aura made the ordinary people somewhat unable to avoid it. It's under martial law. Don't worry. The young man of the courier station glanced at him and said, "Your horse is fine, but now it's under martial law. You can't leave. It seems that it will be closed for 2 or 3 days. You might as well stay here for 2 nights. This was too much of a coincidence. Although this small city gate couldn't stop Li Zongjio. Li Zongjio wasn't the kind of person who liked to cause trouble. Moreover, with his level of cultivation, his intuition told him that someone was watching him. Li Zongjio's intuition told him that this martial law might have something to do with him. Then I'd like to see who's so unafraid of death." Li Zongjio nodded. Since he couldn't leave the city, he might as well stay here for now. Just as well, he could take out the boundless stone in his hand. Li Zongjio found a cheap inn nearby. This inn only had 2 floors. The first floor was the dining area, called the canteen. The second floor was the guest room. There weren't many guest rooms, only 5 in total. When Li Zongjiao arrived, there was only one room left. It was in the middle of the passage. Li Zongjiao didn't suspect anything. After checking into the room, he sat on the bed. Although the room's environment was ordinary, for someone like Li Zongjiao who had lived in the open, he didn't feel anything. If he took out the meteorite in this room, it would instantly smash through the floor. Therefore, Li Zongjiao had to cut the meteorite in the storage ring. This made it more difficult, but with Li Zongjiao's current mind power, it wasn't impossible. Whoosh! Li Zongjiao sent his mind power into the storage ring. Li Zongjiao's mind power also condensed into a thin line and gradually cut the meteorite. During the process of condensing his mind power and cutting the meteorite, Li Zongjiao felt an extremely strong resistance. A repulsive force. It almost shattered Li Zongjiao's mind power. This guy is so tenacious. Li Zongjiao couldn't believe it. If he continued, his mind power would be crushed by the repulsive force. In that case, Li Zongjiao's mind power would be damaged. However, this provided Li Zongjiao with a way to temper his mind power. As long as he stopped at the end of this limit, he would be able to increase the power of his mind power by repeating this process. This is a good method. Although the stone of vast sea hasn't been taken out, it has the effect of restoring mind power. Li Zongjiao thought. Although this method was a little difficult, why wouldn't he be happy if he could improve his mind power cultivation? It could be said that this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to improve his mind power cultivation. Seems like I'll have to concoct more yuan increasing elixirs to complement my cultivation. Otherwise, I'll still be in danger in the imperial city. Once they passed the test of the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor, they would be sent to the manor to cultivate. The Heavenly Star Medicine Manor was located in Sacred Flame City. Sacred Flame City was filled with experts, and Yuan Ancestor Martialists and even Yuan Monarch Martialists could be seen everywhere. Of course, Yuan Monarch Martialists were basically the treasures of the various families. Under normal circumstances, they wouldn't show themselves easily. However, it wasn't difficult to meet some Yuan Monarch Martialists. It was precisely because of this that Li Zongjiao needed more power, more strength, enough to protect himself. After he finished studying at the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor, Li Zongjiao would find a way to break through to the Absolute Saint Realm. After that, he would return to Luoxia City and build his own territory and power. He wanted to protect the Li family and ensure that they could survive in the midst of the turbulent times of the world. Night fell. Li Zongjiao tried to use the meteorite to temper his mind power several times. Although the process was extremely painful, he could feel the benefits it brought. Li Zongjiao could feel the obvious benefits. Although his mind power hadn't broken through to the next level, Li Zongjiao's mind power had become extremely resilient. Buzz! Suddenly, Li Zongjiao felt an omen in his mind. Immediately, Li Zongjiao exited his cultivation state. It's finally here? Chapter 250. The surroundings were silent. All of a sudden, the candle on the table in Li Zongjiao's room flickered and went out. Petty tricks. Li Zongjiao sneered, and the candle burned again. The burning flame continued to emit black smoke, which instantly filled the entire room. From the smoke, some flying insects seemed to emerge. They quickly landed on Li Zongjiao's body. Buzz buzz buzz. These insects emitted an extremely annoying sound. Li Zongjiao sat in the same spot without moving. Soon, these insects landed on Li Zongjiao's body. They seemed to want to inject poison into Li Zongjiao's body. However, there was no place to bite. There were too many poisonous insects. Hundreds and thousands of them landed on Li Zongjiao's body. Li Zongjiao's lips curled into a sneer. A mere illusion. How dare you be so presumptuous in front of this sovereign? Li Zongjiao let out a cold snort. In the next moment, the poisonous bug that had landed on Li Zongjiao's body actually started to burn crazily. Boom, boom, boom. Without exception, these poisonous insects were burned to ashes. Even some of the poisonous insects that were still flying in the air turned into sparks and landed on the floor. They seemed to turn into smoke and disappeared with the wind. This was the method of a spirit master. Spirit masters killed people invisibly. This was because an ordinary person would not be able to come into contact with this method. If Li Zongjio saw these poisonous bugs, he would be extremely terrified and would waste his physical strength in vain. In the end, he would also die from exhaustion of his yuan power. However, these poisonous bugs that emitted a buzzing sound could not be completely exterminated no matter how hard he tried, because they did not exist in the first place. How could he kill them all? The other party seemed to see that this method was not effective. He attacked again, and a black hole appeared on the floor in front of him. A huge claw reached out from the black hole and grabbed Li Zongjio's leg. Only an unknown length of arm reached out from the black hole. Li Zongjio was disdainful of this strange method. This is a method to scare children. Li Zongjio ignited a black flame in the room. The appearance of this flame did not bring light to the surroundings. However, one could clearly feel the blazing existence within it. It emitted a force that could not be ignored. Following the appearance of this flame, there seemed to be an empty sound of bewilderment. Boom! Everything in front of him disappeared. Li Zongjio opened his eyes. He was still in the room and had not moved at all. The candle on the table was still there, undamaged, and still burning quietly. Bang! The wall in front of him was suddenly smashed by a huge force. A figure walked out from behind the wall. His body was abnormally strong, and his arms were also wearing wrist guards made of black iron. He looked like a meat shield. The person who walked out was also panting heavily. His gaze was as firm as iron as it locked onto Li Zongjio. If Li Zongjio wanted to escape, the short axe in his hand would be thrown without hesitation. With the opponent's strength, the axe would hit its target with 100% accuracy at this distance. Interesting. Your yuan force can actually attack mental strength. Not bad. A stooped old man walked out from behind the brawny man. A strong mind energy master and a meat shield warrior. This combination was basically the nightmare of some lone wolves. Mind energy masters had many tricks up their sleeves. If one was not careful, they would fall for it. On top of that, there was a meat shield warrior who could hold you back. Even if you wanted to escape, it would not be that easy. A level 3 mind energy master and a level 8 origin general. Is this all you can do? Li Zongjio spoke first without waiting for the other party to speak. In front of Li Zongjio, these two people had nowhere to hide. He saw through them at a glance. The old man was not surprised when he heard this. After all, Li Zongjio's mind energy cultivation was here. It was not strange that he could see through them. I did not expect you to be able to enter level 3 at such a young age. I am really curious, what kind of origin formula do you cultivate? The old man said indifferently. In his eyes, Li Zongjio was already in the bag. He could even chat with him. What was wrong with that? Come over here and I will tell you, Li Zongjio said. Hearing Li Zongjio's words, the old man's eyes gradually darkened. You are very happy with this skin. I want to see if you can still be so arrogant after I peel off your skin. Li Zongjio did not waste any time and pulled out his 6 revolution steel blade. If the two of you can walk out of here today, I will no longer be called Li Zongjio. The purpose of these two people was to take Li Zongjio's life. There was no doubt about this. Li Zongjio's strength was not weak. He could withstand the opponent's mind energy attack. Otherwise, Li Zongjio would have been directly killed by the opponent's mind energy. Shameless boasting. If I don't break all the bones in your body today, Tai Hu, will not be able to survive in the underworld. The brawny man roared and waved the short axe in his hand. He first knocked on his shield and let out a battle cry. Just this roar alone was enough to be heard clearly within 100 meters. But in fact, this was already enveloped by the mind energy of the spirit master. Any movement here would not spread out, so they could act so wantonly to make it easier to kill. With a spirit master in charge, Li Zongjio could not easily use his mind energy to fight against Tai Hu in front of him. Otherwise, once he found an opening, he could be killed in an instant. Fighting against Tai Hu did not require mind energy. The origin energy in his body spread over the steel blade. It looked like the steel blade was carrying a little bit of fire. Boom! The origin energy carried the steel blade and slashed out. The blade chi was unparalleled and swift. Li Zongjio did not use any blade technique. Any blade technique was just to expand the power of this move to defeat the enemy. Li Zongjio's use of these weapons had already reached the level of returning to the original state. Therefore, there was no need for these ordinary blade techniques. The blade slashed out. Tai Hu directly pushed out the shield in his hand. He wanted to block Li Zongjio's move halfway. This way, the power of the blade technique would be reduced. Most importantly, Li Zongjio's blade technique looked soft and weak, without the slightest bit of power to speak of. With your strength, I can crush you to death with one hand. Tai Hu's left hand exerted force. If Li Zongjio's strength was not enough, then the blade technique would hit the shield and the force would be reflected. Just the power of the rebound would be enough to break Li Zongjio's arm. One must know that Li Zongjio's arm looked so weak that it could not withstand a single blow. Clang. However, Tai Hu's calculation was wrong. From the beginning, his perception was wrong. He originally wanted to block Li Zongjio's move halfway, but Li Zongjio's speed was faster. Before Tai Hu's shield arrived, Li Zongjio had already completed the burst of power. The moment the blade technique fell, the shield was directly cut in half. Intense sparks appeared on the dark steel shield. Not long after, the shield in Tai Hu's hand could no longer withstand the attack. Boom! The shield in Tai Hu's left hand instantly shattered. A wave of power also spread towards Tai Hu's arm, trying to invade it. It blasted into Tai Hu's arm. Even Tai Hu did not have time to react to this sudden surge of power. His expression was still frozen at the moment when his shield was broken by Li Zongjio. How is this possible? Crack. The clear sound of bones breaking made Tai Hu feel pain. Fuck! Tai Hu roared angrily. The axe in his hand also chopped towards Li Zongjio's head. If it hit, Li Zongjio's head would probably explode. However, Li Zongjio's speed was incomparably fast. The 6 revolution steel blade in his hand had already taken the lead and directly chopped Tai Hu's wrist. Tai Hu's arm was directly chopped off by Li Zongjio. Fresh blood spurted out from the broken wrist. Another slash. Tai Hu's head directly rolled on the ground. The difference between the two could be said to be the difference between heaven and earth. If Li Zongjio wanted to kill Tai Hu, it was simply a matter of a thought. Seeing the meat shield warrior who had been following him for so long being so easily beheaded, the old man behind him was clearly shocked as well. Li Zongjio's strength was more powerful than he had expected. Chapter 251. At the same time, when Tai Hu died, he was already prepared. He took out a string of prayer beads from his wrist. With a flick of his finger, one of the prayer beads immediately flew in front of Li Zongjio. The power contained in this prayer bead was also very strong. It exploded in front of Li Zongjio. Boom! Suddenly, a light screen trapped Li Zongjio within it. Origin item? Li Zongjio looked at the item that his opponent had taken out. It was obviously very powerful. When he took out this item, he was obviously worried about Li Zongjio's strength. He knew that he was no match for Li Zongjio, or that Li Zongjio was a threat. Therefore, he had to take down Li Zongjio to prevent other situations from happening. The first prayer bead trapped Li Zongjio, causing Li Zongjio's movements to become extremely slow. Time seemed to have slowed down under this light screen. At the same time, it also gave Li Zongjio a very strong pressure. Any consumption of energy would be 10 times more than usual. However, the time that this light screen could last was also very limited. The old man also knew this, so he didn't waste any time at all. He took out the other prayer bead again and aimed it at Li Zongjio. Die, ghost spear! As soon as he finished speaking, the prayer beads in the old man's hand instantly turned into a 1-meter-long black spear with red tassels. With a flick of his finger, the black ghost spear immediately rushed towards Li Zongjio with terrifying power. Boom! Li Zongjio stood in place, unable to dodge. He didn't even have time to block. Bang! The spear directly pierced Li Zongjio's heart, sending Li Zongjio flying. The light screen shattered, but Li Zongjio had already been hit. Even if the light screen dissipated, it would be useless. Hee hee, young man, you are still too inexperienced. After using the ghost spear to hit Li Zongjio, The old man was obviously very proud. One had to know that almost no one could block this move. He hadn't wasted his years in the martial arts world. Jianghu was a dangerous place. If he didn't prepare some life-saving items and deadly weapons, he wouldn't have been able to survive until now. That move just now was a result of countless experiments. Only then could he achieve such a perfect effect under such circumstances. If you are hit by the ghost spear, you will definitely die. I have never seen anyone who has survived. It's a pity that Iron Tiger's body is in such a good condition. If his head wasn't chopped off, he might be able to be refined into a puppet. The old man thought for a moment and prepared to step forward and take Li Zongjiu's storage ring. After all, that meteorite was what he needed. To him, Li Zongjiu's life was just a matter of time. When the old man walked up, he saw Li Zongjiu lying on the ground with a spear in his chest. Obviously, this was a very tragic end. Just as the old man was about to take Li Zongjiu's storage ring, he saw Li Zongjiu's hand move. What? Li Zongjiu's hand directly reached out and grabbed the old man's throat. You are not dead. The old man wanted to use his mental strength, but Li Zongjiu was faster. He picked up the long sword next to him and chopped off the old man's head. This was the fate of a mental strength master after being closed in. He threw the head in his hand to the side. Li Zongjiu then pulled out the spear in his chest. Hiss! Even Li Zongjiu couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth. What a coincidence! The dark force is ineffective against me? This ghost spear contained a terrifying dark yuan energy. It was because of this dark yuan energy that those who were struck by it had a 100% chance of dying. To ordinary people, this dark yuan energy was like a deadly poison. Once they came into contact with it, they would die very quickly. However, when Li Zongjiu was invaded by this dark essence energy, the black dragon origin spirit within his body directly absorbed this dark essence energy cleanly. As for his chest, it was only a superficial wound. Although it pierced his chest, Li Zongjiu's body was protected by the golden dragon origin spirit, and his heart was heavily wrapped by the golden dragon origin spirit. Under the protection of such a heavy armor, it could be said that he was unscathed. That old man probably didn't even dream of it. He had originally prepared a sure-kill move, but he actually encountered a body with immunity that was hard to come by in 10,000 years. The black dragon origin spirit in his body was a supreme existence of dark force in his previous life. Such a small amount of dark force wasn't even enough to fill the gaps between his teeth. The wound on his chest had already recovered in a few breaths of time. Li Zongjiu took the prayer beads from the old man's hand. There were 2 black prayer beads on it. Li Zongjiu directly crushed them and absorbed the dark force within. In addition, there were 2 white prayer beads. These were the origin tools that had previously trapped Li Zongjiu. The power of imprisonment. Unfortunately, this thing can only be used at close range, and the hit rate isn't high. If it's unexpected, there's a chance of success. Li Zongjiu observed for a while. This prayer bead needed to be used within a range of 10 meters, and it could only be maintained for a short 3 seconds. If an external force came into contact with it, the power of imprisonment would directly disappear. Therefore, it needed to be attacked with other origin tools. These people really came for me. It's a pity that I killed them too quickly. I don't even know who came to find trouble. Li Zongjiu thought. However, Li Zongjiu also found a token on these 2 people. Qing Yuan. It's Qing Yuan Manor again. Looks like these people's forces have already invaded more than half of Dinghuan province. They didn't go to the bigger cities, but chose to jump around in such a place. These people are really bored. Li Zongjiu kept the 2 identity tokens. The front of the token was Qing Yuan, while the back had their code names. Therefore, as long as he took it out and asked, he would know who was behind it. When Li Zongjiu found that person, it would be the end of that person's life. At this moment, in the city lord's mansion, the patriarchs of the 4 great families received orders. They came to the city lord mansion for a meeting. However, when they arrived at the city lord mansion, they were asked to wait in the living room. The combined age of the 4 of them was more than 200 years old. The combined power of the four great families was enough to turn northern Medicine City upside down several times. However, they were still obediently sitting on the chairs, drinking tea, and waiting for a young man who was not even 25 years old. Even if they were unhappy, they did not express it. The relationship between the four great families was also quite fierce. It was very rare for them to be able to sit here peacefully for so long. Sorry for the long wait. I was arranging some things just now, so I came a little late. Zhang Yu, who was dressed in white, walked out with a white jade belt around his waist. Just the jade on the belt alone was worth no less than 10 million gold yuan. This could be said to be very ostentatious, without the slightest intention of keeping a low profile. Seeing the arrogant Zhang Yu walk out, although he said that he had waited for a long time, he did not show the slightest trace of embarrassment on his face. It's fine, we also just arrived. The patriarch of the Hong family said. Among the four great families, the patriarch of the Hong family was the only one who was popular in many aspects. In terms of business, he was also the one who walked in the middle. However, when it came to a real outbreak, such people were usually the first to be eliminated or the first to fall out. Remember this person's appearance. Zhang Yu threw a picture scroll on the table. The person in the picture scroll looked exactly like Li Zongjio. I want you to gather your men and do your best to arrest this person. Zhang Yu said indifferently. Hearing Zhang Yu's words, the first to be unable to sit still was the Mo family. The patriarch of the Mo clan had always advocated that if people didn't offend him, he wouldn't offend them. In addition, he also paid a lot of attention to business matters. Fighting and killing were all vulgar things. If he had to do this kind of thing personally, it would be too degrading. Moreover, Zhang Yu's tone seemed to be a little too much. The reason why the four great families were sitting here today was to give face to King Qing Yuan and not to Zhang Yu. Otherwise, they would have already flipped the table and left. To be able to make the family's strength become the top family in northern Medicine City, the power in their hands was naturally not so simple. Zhang Yu, who had just injured people, actually wanted to use his words to casually order the four great families around. This was simply a fool's dream. City Lord Zhang, are you mistaken? We are all legitimate business families and do some small businesses. The matter of arresting people is naturally left to the authorities and the city guards. The patriarch of the Mo family, Mo Xingshan, said. Chapter 252. Mo Xingshan said. Naturally, Zhang Yu wasn't a simple person. Now that the patriarchs of the four great clans were here, how could they be suppressed by a mere Zhang Yu? If that was the case, wouldn't it be a huge loss of face for them? How could such a thing happen? We've already given you face and waited for you here. If we don't give you face, do you think you can overturn the heavens? You're the head of the Mo family, right? It's everyone's responsibility to protect the property of the northern Medicine City. Don't you agree? If you're not from the northern Medicine City, then I won't force you to take action. Tomorrow, bring your Mo family and leave the northern Medicine City. Zhang Yu said slowly. To be able to say such words, it was enough to see how arrogant Zhang Yu was. The influence and wealth of a giant clan in this city was immeasurable. If the Mo clan left just like that, then northern Medicine City would not only lose an industrial chain, but also the entire city. Mo Xingshan sneered when he heard this. Mayor Zhang, aren't you overestimating your power? If you can get my Mo clan to leave northern Medicine City with just a word, then the hundreds of people in my Mo clan wouldn't need to live anymore. In Mo Xingshan's eyes, Zhang Yu was too young. Usually, if you do something that doesn't hurt or itch, then for the sake of this Qingyuan villa, everyone won't bicker with you and let you play as you wish. However, his current actions were a little too much. Mayor Zhang, Brother Mo's clan manages 30% of the real estate industry in the city. If Brother Mo leaves northern Medicine City, then even a third of northern Medicine City will have to be cut off. It's true that amiability brings wealth, but it's wrong to think that others can step on his head just because he's amiable. Therefore, when Zhang Yu said such words, the four great clans were somewhat dissatisfied. It's true that civilians don't fight with officials, but if the four great clans were to join forces, it wouldn't be difficult to destroy a mayor without any foundation. Oh, So, I can't touch the four of you? Upon hearing this, Zhang Yu coldly chuckled. The corner of his eyes contained a blade-like glint as he swept his gaze across the surrounding four clan heads. Upon hearing this, the hearts of the four clan heads sunk. If they were to truly fight, there would naturally be no benefits for either party. But no one was afraid of the other. If the four great clans were to suffer, Zhang Yu would be dead for sure. Don't be so full of yourself when you're young. Mo Xingshan said indifferently. It's impossible for my Mo clan to risk our lives for you. If you have the ability, just bring it on. After he finished speaking, Mo Xingshan flicked his sleeves and took the lead to leave. If he agreed to Zhang Yu's request today, his Mo clan would become Zhang Yu's property in the future. Zhang Yu could order them to come and go as he pleased. In that case, his Mo clan would naturally become a huge joke. He, Mo Xingshan, had also become a sinner of the Mo clan. Mo Xingshan wasn't the only one who understood this point. The other three patriarchs naturally understood this as well. However, Mo Xingshan's temper was still the most stubborn. Seeing Mo Xingshan turn around and leave, Zhang Yu's mouth curled into a cold smile. Just as Mo Xingshan's foot was about to step out of the door, Zhang Yu suddenly flipped his hand and slammed it on the table. Then his entire body shot up and rushed towards Mo Xingshan. This terrifying aura exploded out and filled the entire area. Boom! Zhang Yu's aura was as ferocious as a giant beast. You want to kill me? Mo Xingshan wasn't an ordinary person. Seeing that Zhang Yu dared to take the initiative to attack, Mo Xingshan wasn't someone who could be trampled on. However, while Mo Xingshan's Yuan power was still brewing in his body, Zhang Yu had already arrived in front of him and slammed his palm down. Boom! Mo Xingshan's shoulder was hit by this palm. Half of his body was dislocated. His bones were directly shattered. His heart was also squeezed to the point of bursting. Mo Xingshan spat out a mouthful of blood and knelt on the ground. His entire body looked so uncoordinated. Lowering his head, when he looked again, he was already dead. The appearance of this scene scared everyone out of their wits. Mo Xingshan's strength was the highest among all of them. He had reached the realm of a grade 7 origin general. However, in front of Zhang Yu, he couldn't even last one move. Seeing this, the three patriarchs stood up one after another. Their eyes were filled with shock. Zhang Yu came in front of Mo Xingshan's corpse and used a knife to cut off Mo Xingshan's head. The dignified patriarch of the Mo family died in the city lord's mansion just like that. No one would have thought that such a thing would happen. Hang this head above the city gate. This person dared to behave atrociously in the city lord's mansion. He attacked the city lord and threatened me. His actions are no different from robbers. Tomorrow, gather people and go to the Mo family. Arrest all the accomplices involved in this case and bring them to justice. Zhang Yu threw the head out of the door. There were already guards waiting outside. When they heard Zhang Yu's words, they immediately went to carry out the task. Zhang Yu took out a white handkerchief and wiped the blood off his hands. With a clean smile on his face, he looked at the remaining three patriarchs. I've dealt with a traitor. The family heads are witnesses. Is there anyone else who wants to attack this city lord? Zhang Yu's sunny and righteous image was clearly just a show. Now, he was completely exposed in front of the three great clan heads. His viciousness had overturned the entire Mo clan's influence by casually assigning such a groundless crime. Of course, it was easy to talk about it. However, they had seen it with their own eyes. Mo Xingshan, a grade 7 origin general, could not even last one move in front of Zhang Yu. In addition, Zhang Yu deliberately released his aura just now. The remaining three patriarchs had already understood what was going on. Zhang Yu was actually a Sky Origin Ancestor level elite. Origin Ancestor realm. So young. Such a young Sky Origin Ancestor. When all these conditions were put together, it was no wonder that Zhang Yu was so arrogant. With Zhang Yu's strength and status in Northern Medicine City, it would not be an exaggeration to say that he could cover the sky with one hand. The remaining three patriarchs also understood that the other party did not care about their lives. The Mo clan's businesses would soon be packaged up and sold off. Even the city lord's mansion would personally nurture a force to take over these businesses. If they wanted the three great clans to be obedient, one of them had to die today. Zhang Yu was already prepared for this. It was just that Mo Xingshan took the lead and gave them such an obvious example. Anyone who saw this would suck in a breath of cold air. This was too ruthless. They weren't here to govern the city, they were here to control the city. To be able to be appointed here, the power of the Qingyuan villa must have already covered the sky with one hand and could manipulate the position of the officials at will. Based on Zhang Yu's revenge, he was not here to be the city lord for the long term. He was only here to solve the problem. City lord, rest assured. As long as this person is in the city, my Hong clan will find him even if we have to dig 3 feet into the ground and bring him before the Lord. The clan head of the Hong clan immediately changed the topic and expressed his loyalty. That's right. My Hua clan will also spare no effort. My Su clan swears to eradicate this disaster. The other 2 patriarchs also said. Zhang Yu looked at the 3 patriarchs and nodded his head in satisfaction. There's no need to search. This person's heart is in the inn opposite the southern city gate station. Gather your men immediately and capture this person. When the time comes, I will reward you according to your contributions. When the time comes, I will personally award you with a banner. Hearing Zhang Yu's words, although the 3 patriarchs were cursing in their hearts, they still smiled on the surface. Soon after, they left to gather their men. It was obvious that he wanted the 3 of them to supervise each other. If anything happened, no one would be able to escape. After the 3 patriarchs left, Zhang Yu's eyes were filled with an ominous glint. You destroyed the Northern Medicine Restaurant and killed Deacon Chang. I want to see how capable you are. In this city, I don't even need to lift a finger to take your life. Chapter 253. When Li Zongjio arrived downstairs, as expected, the innkeeper and waiters had all been killed. These people are really vicious and merciless. Looks like tonight won't be peaceful. Li Zongjio did not leave. Instead, he took a bottle of wine and a stack of peanuts from the kitchen and sat in the hall, waiting for the next enemy to arrive. Late at night, the 3 family heads met once again. The incident with the Mo family reminded them that if they did not catch Li Zongjio today, they would not have a good time when they returned. At this moment, Mo Xingshan's head was hanging on the city wall. His blood was still dripping. The entire Mo family was finished. The 3 family heads rode on their horses. Behind them were their guards. Surround this inn. The Hong family head, Hong Zixing, shouted. You guys go too. Su Bingchun said. Hua Huan also ordered the Hua family guards to rush out and surround the inn. From the window of the inn, they could see a person sitting in the hall, drinking alone. Obviously, he had been waiting for them for a long time. Archers, get ready. Large blade team, get ready to rush in. All 3 parties were ready. Just as they were about to break in, Hong Zixing raised his hand. Hong Zixing raised his hand and interrupted the rhythm. This also caused the 2 people who were in a tense situation to look over. What do you want to do? Su Bingchun frowned and asked. Hong Zixing also raised his eyelids and looked at the moon in the sky. Then he looked at the strong men behind him. Then he looked at the 2 people beside him. This is strange. If it was an ordinary person, why would we need to act? This doesn't make sense. Hong Zixing looked at the 2 and said slowly. What do you mean? The arrow is already on the bow. It's useless to say more. If we don't kill our way in, Mo Xingshan's fate is already there. Hua Huan said. Zhang Yu is at the origin ancestor realm. He can go anywhere in the city and catch anyone. Why do we need to act? Hong Zixing expressed the doubts in his heart. You're saying, even he can't figure out the people inside. Su Bingchun quickly grasped the crux of the matter. If he could do it himself, he wouldn't have to go through so much trouble. Mo Xingshan's death would directly cause a huge loss to the city. As the city lord, it would be hard for him to escape the blame. A brat who is still wet behind the ears dares to jump around above our heads? So what if he is Yuan Zong? Since that is the case, why don't we go and investigate this person's background first? It must be said that Hong Xixing's idea was extremely bold. The three of them knew that this matter wasn't so simple. They just had to capture them and hand them over to Zhang Yu. There would be endless troubles in the future, and they might even become Zhang Yu's puppets. They would have to do whatever Zhang Yu asked them to do. This was a scene that none of the family heads wanted to see. Thus, they had to think of a way to get out of this predicament. Hong Xixing had been developing steadily over the years, dealing with various big families. It wasn't easy for him to achieve today's stable situation. How could he let this family be destroyed like this? He had to save it from the beginning. The three of them exchanged glances. Finally, they came to a decision. Knock, knock, knock. A series of knocks sounded. Li Zongjio glanced at the door and said indifferently, "Come in." The door was pushed open, and Hong Xixing and the other two walked in. When they saw that the person sitting at the table was actually a delicate-looking youth, the three of them were shocked. The person that Zhang Yu was afraid of was actually this person in front of them. At first, they thought that it was a problem with the artist's technique, which made him look younger. However, when they saw Li Zongjio, the three of them realized that they were thinking too much. The age of this youth in front of them was basically below Zhang Yu's. This Zhang Yu was actually afraid of a youth who was younger than him. The three of them felt that it was inconceivable. Although they didn't believe it in their hearts, since they had already walked in, they naturally had to find out the situation of the other party. "Little brother, are you Li Zongjio?" Hong Xixing was the first to speak. This negotiation could be said to be a result of Hong Xixing's matchmaking. He also wanted to see how powerful this Li Zongjio was. Even though he knew that this Li Zongjio was definitely extraordinary, he still found it hard to believe at this moment. "That's me." Li Zongjio knocked on the table, indicating that the three of them should sit at the table. "You're also here to kill me, right? Tell me who sent you, and I can spare your lives." After waiting for the three of them to sit down, Li Zongjio drank a cup of wine and said indifferently. This scene could be said to be extremely strange. When they were sitting in the city lord's mansion's main hall, they also faced the same threat. However, that person was the new city lord and had the backing of Qingyuan Manor. It was because of this strength and oppression, coupled with the fact that he had killed a person in public, that he could threaten them. And now, a young man who was only in his teens was clearly just a brat to them. How dare such a person come and threaten them? It was really hilarious. Could it be that children nowadays like to threaten people so much? However, with the example of Zhang Yu, they had learned their lesson this time. "We are under the city lord's order to invite you to the city lord's mansion to assist in the investigation. I hope that little brother will give us face and not make things difficult for the three of us," Hong Xixing said. If this Li Zongjio had something to talk about and could directly bring them to the city lord's mansion, then as long as they invited Li Zongjio to the city lord's mansion, they would not have to kill him. Wouldn't this be the best of both worlds? In this way, it would be a safe solution. It won't be difficult if you're dead. Looking at the somewhat relaxed three of them, Li Zongjio's words made the three of them extremely stiff. What did these words mean? Could it be that he was going to attack them? Thinking of this, the three of them became gloomy. However, Li Zongjio did not care about the changes in the three of them. He did not even know that the people sitting in front of him were the patriarchs of the three great clans that could hold up half of the sky in this city. Such an identity was not threatening or attractive to Li Zongjio. However, Li Zongjio had already found a new target. There was no way to kill all of these lackeys. Only by killing his way to the city lord's mansion would he be able to solve this problem. First of all, he did not care about why the other party wanted to kill him. However, according to the situation of the two people upstairs, they should be after the meteorite in his hands. In any case, he would kill them first. "Bring me to the city lord's mansion." Li Zongjio stood up and turned to walk out of the house. The three people who stayed behind were stunned. This kid was so easy to talk to, but he was actually willing to throw his life away. If this was the case, Zhang Yu would have no reason to make things difficult for them after this matter was settled. "Take the things upstairs with you. This is the big gift I prepared." Li Zongjio's voice drifted over. "Things? What things?" Among the three of them, Hong Xixing was the first to go out and stabilize the troops. Otherwise, it would be too much of a waste if they had to go into a bloody battle after the negotiations had been settled. Meanwhile, Su Bingchun and Hua Huan went upstairs. They immediately saw two headless corpses lying in the middle of the road. When they picked up the heads of the two people, they were all shocked. Master Nyenma, raging warrior Tai Hu. How did these two people die here? Chapter 254. Su Bingchun and Hua Huan couldn't calm down for a long time when they saw the two corpses. The scene before their eyes was simply too shocking. The combination of the two of them could be considered veteran powerhouses in the city. Even the four great families didn't dare offend the two of them. The two of them had only been living in seclusion and hadn't done anything. Now they had been killed by Li Zongjio. The inn was empty, and Li Zongjio was the only one inside. Who else could have killed them? Eventually, the two of them packed up the corpses. If that was the case, then the two of them might be related to the city lord mansion. However, based on Zhang Yu's behavior, it seemed like he didn't know anything about the two of them. Otherwise, he wouldn't have sent them over. Although the three great families had some means to resist a Sky Origin ancestor powerhouse, they simply weren't a match for Master Nyen Mo. If Master Nyen Mo wanted to slaughter the three great families, it would be a piece of cake. A level 3 mind master was feared wherever he went. Most importantly, Master Nyen Mo's strength was at the peak of level 3 mind masters. But now, even his head had been chopped off. With such a way of dying, he couldn't even leave behind a complete corpse. That young man is really terrifying. Even Master Nyen Mo had died at the hands of Li Zongjio. If they had rushed in, their fates wouldn't have been much different from Master Nyen Mo's. After the two of them came out, they got their subordinates to carry the corpses while they quickly chased after Hong Xisheng. Hong Xisheng turned around to look at the two of them. He thought that as long as Li Zongjio reached the city lord's mansion, everything would be over. He should be happy. However, looking at the two of them, he felt disgusted and worried as if they had eaten shit. What's going on? Hong Xisheng couldn't help but ask softly. Based on the expressions of the two of them, there was clearly something wrong. Su Bingchun and Hua Huan exchanged a glance. This matter was too shocking. In the end, Su Bingchun was the one who spoke. There are two corpses in the inn. It's Master Nyenma and Tai Hu. Su Bingchun said in an extremely low voice. The death of these two people was enough to cause a huge commotion in Jianghu under normal circumstances. There would definitely be a storm in the city. The two of them usually stayed in the city and didn't do anything. Why would he suddenly find Li Zongjio and be killed? What? Master Nyen Mo? Tai Hu is dead? Hong Xisheng was so surprised that he almost bit his own tongue. Then, he looked at Li Zongjio, who was slowly moving forward on his horse. It was impossible not to be shocked. Even if Mo Xingshan had died in front of his eyes, he would not have been so shocked. Mo Xingshan's death would have made him somewhat happy. After all, such a big family had suddenly fallen, so they would definitely have picked up some benefits later on. However, Master Nyen Mo was an expert with a glorious battle record in the city. He lived in seclusion in the city, and even the previous city lord didn't dare to provoke him. Now he was dead. Even the corpses were brought along. Such a shocking thing was simply hard to accept. Li Zongjio is no less terrifying than Zhang Yu. It's no wonder Zhang Yu is so wary of him. The three of them had some understanding of Li Zongjio's strength. How could these young people grow so quickly? It was simply unbelievable. In the city lord mansion, Zhang Yu was arrogant because of his talent. Tonight, his move had intimidated the three great clans. With the help of Qingyuan Villa's strength, he had eradicated the Mo clan. At the same time, he had supported the Qingyuan Villa's power and consolidated his position in the city. So far, he had accomplished his mission very well. However, Zhang Yu had underestimated the courage of the three great families. When the news came back, Zhang Yu was taken aback. He did not expect this at all. He had never imagined that the three great families would actually dare to join forces with Li Zongjio. Although he didn't know the details of the deal, the fact that the three great families had captured Li Zongjio and brought him to the city lord mansion unscathed was indeed a little unbelievable. Interesting. Seems like these three stinking bug families still want to make a comeback. Since I have my eyes on them, how can I let them make a comeback so easily? He had already made up his mind to eat up the three great families. He wouldn't give up so easily. He wanted to see what kind of tricks these people would dare play in front of him. Get the Bloodstrike guards ready and act on my orders, Zhang Yu said nonchalantly. Although he wasn't afraid of these people, as a Sky Origin level powerhouse, he was invincible in a city like this. How could he be frightened by these country bumpkins? However, he still made some preparations to prevent these people from getting in the way. If any accidents happened, he would be able to control them in time. Now, he wanted to see where Li Zongjio had gotten the courage to walk into the City Lord Mansion. Once he walked in, he wouldn't be able to leave. 10 minutes later, Li Zongjio and the others had already arrived at the entrance of the City Lord Mansion. The doors of the City Lord Mansion were wide open, as if they had already known that they would be there. The three of you come in as well. Li Zongjio walked in after he finished speaking. Hong Xixing and the others wanted to leave immediately. After all, this was a matter between the two of them. Furthermore, they had already arrived at the location, so there was no need to continue. However, Li Zongjio's words left them at a loss for what to do. In the end, Hong Xixing and the other two entered with an elder each. At the same time, they ordered everyone to wait outside. Once they saw the signal, regardless of what happened, they were to rush in and rescue them first. Mo Xingshan's mistake was a warning to them. If they didn't bring anyone, they would very likely be killed by Zhang Yu. If anything were to happen, the three great clans would naturally engage in a life and death struggle. No matter what, it was impossible for them to become Zhang Yu's lackey. After they were done with their preparations, they followed Li Zongjio. After entering the City Lord Mansion, Li Zongjio saw a young man carrying a chair and sitting in the middle of the road. Looking at Li Zongjio, who had just arrived, there was a beautiful maid beside him who was pouring tea for him. In addition, the guards of the City Lord Mansion were standing on both sides. If it wasn't for Zhang Yu's order, it would have taken some time for them to barge in. You are Li Zongjio? Zhang Yu asked arrogantly when he saw Li Zongjio. The clan leaders of the three great clans could only stand a short distance behind Li Zongjio. Both Zhang Yu and Li Zongjio were extremely dangerous people. If they casually approached them, it was very likely that they would be injured. Therefore, it was better to keep a distance. You want to kill me? Li Zongjio looked at Zhang Yu and said indifferently. He didn't answer Zhang Yu's question. After asking the question, he casually tossed the two tokens out. These were the tokens that he found on Tai Hu and the mental demon. Patter! The tokens fell in front of Zhang Yu. Zhang Yu was angry at first, but when he saw the two tokens, he calmed down. He didn't get angry and just sat there. What did you do to the two of them? These two tokens came from Qingyuan Villa, so he naturally knew who they were. One of them was the deacon of Qingyuan Villa. Just like the people who were supervising the Northern Medicine House back then, they had quite a high status. With such a status, they would often need to shoulder some extremely important missions and hide in one place. At the same time, there was no need to doubt their strength. Kill them. Li Zongjio stood with his hands behind his back. I'll give you a chance. Kill yourself. He looked at Zhang Yu and said indifferently. Chapter 255. Li Zongjio could tell from Zhang Yu's expression that Zhang Yu was from the Qingyuan Villa. This Zhang Yu was also from the Qingyuan Villa. Since that was the case, Li Zongjio didn't care why the other party wanted to kill him. The reason wasn't important. What he cared about was the result. Since Zhang Yu had committed suicide, there was no need for him to do anything. Hong Xixing was extremely shocked when he heard Li Zongjio's words. Li Zongjio didn't know, but they did. Zhang Yu had a Sky Origin ancestor cultivation base. At his age, he was considered a first-rate genius. How could he commit suicide just because of a single sentence? Everyone knew that this was impossible. Where did Li Zongjio get his confidence from? Why did he ask Zhang Yu to commit suicide? In fact, those words that were filled with confidence and ignorance caused Zhang Yu to be startled. Then he burst into loud laughter. I was wondering what kind of ruthless person killed Ao Yong. It turns out that he's just a fool. Zhang Yu laughed heartily as he looked at Li Zongjio. Killed Ao Yong? Was this Li Zongjio the one who had killed the previous city lord, Ao Yong? Ao Yong's death could be considered inexplicable. Later on, the Thousand-Flavor Herb Hall had been implicated. Fortunately, the Thousand-Flavor Herb Hall had a strong background, so this matter didn't have much of an impact. However, it was indeed impressive to display such ability. If he could kill Master Nianma, then killing Ao Yong shouldn't be too difficult. The three of you, listen carefully. Are you going to join forces with me and take down this person? Or are you going to join forces with him and take all of you down together? Zhang Yu said nonchalantly. He pointed at the three family heads as he spoke. Even though they were the clan leaders of the three great clans, they were still confused by the situation in front of them. What exactly was going on? From the looks of it, this Li Zongjio seemed to have done many things that were not known to outsiders. Moreover, such a person had appeared in their city, yet the three great clans were completely unaware of this matter. However, Li Zongjio didn't make things difficult for them for long. After confirming that the person in front of them was indeed that impudent kid, Li Zongjio's figure had already moved. Li Zongjio still had to head to the Black North megacity to register after dealing with the kid. The reason why Li Zongjio wanted to deal with this trouble now was because he was worried that these people would touch Luoxia City. Therefore, he wanted to deal with these people first. Boom! In the center of his palm, a flame emerged, and the surrounding temperature immediately rose to a terrifying level. This first-rate power came from the depths of his soul, and he could feel the fear. Hee, you're really courting death. Since that's the case, I'll let you know what the actual disparity is. Trash like you can only be a bug under my feet forever. If I want to step on you, I'll step on you. A terrifying aura immediately erupted from Zhang Yu's body. At the same time, behind Zhang Yu, a silverback gorilla suddenly stood up. Its height alone was close to 10 meters, although it was only a shadow formed by the condensation of yuan power. However, in everyone's eyes, this silverback gorilla seemed to be standing in front of them, looking down at Li Zongjio from above. Prayer beads go. Without any hesitation, Li Zongjio ejected the beads with the power of imprisonment in his hand. Swoosh. This whistling sound directly released the power of the imprisonment. A huge light screen instantly enveloped Zhang Yu. This is the imprisonment prayer beads. Zhang Yu was stunned when he saw the light screen appear. However, Li Zongjio's move was too sudden, and Zhang Yu's figure was stunned on the spot. This terrifying imprisonment force also stabilized his body. At the same time, the flame in Li Zongjio's palm turned into an evil spirit and blasted towards Zhang Yu. Boom! The obsidian flame accurately hit Zhang Yu's head. However, Zhang Yu's head did not directly explode. Instead, a green light bloomed from Zhang Yu's body. As the green light appeared, it forcibly suppressed the obsidian flame. Damn it! After seeing the green light, Zhang Yu's eyes immediately widened. He even wanted to curse out loud. He hated Li Zongjio to the core. You actually triggered one of my king-level protective talismans. Li Zongjio looked at the green light emerging. This was a method that experts often used. Infusing one's yuan qi into a jade talisman and wearing it on one's body, as long as a sudden surge of energy met the triggering conditions of the jade talisman, it would automatically activate and achieve the effect of protecting the owner. Obviously, in Zhang Yu's family, there was also a king-level expert who took a fancy to him and even refined a protective talisman for him. Under the flickering green light, Li Zongjio also saw the big word, win. This word was marked with a special symbol. If you were an expert of the same level, you should recognize each other and know whose symbol it was. Therefore, it served as a deterrent and warning. For example, if Li Zongjio gave someone a protective talisman, he would also leave his own symbol on the defensive shield. This way, if something happened and he offended an expert, he would weigh the pros and cons after seeing the symbol on the defensive shield. After all, this was a very serious matter. After seeing the symbol and knowing that this person was under his protection, he would start to weigh the pros and cons. After all, this was a very serious matter. After seeing the symbol and knowing that this person was under his protection, he would be going against him. This was where the threat of such a title came from. However, this was just a mere Yuan king. To Li Zongjio, this was nothing. He was completely uninterested and did not care who this symbol belonged to. Zhang Yu broke out in a cold sweat. If he did not have this protective talisman, he would have been ambushed by Li Zongjio and even lost his life. Fortunately, he had this protective talisman with him. Otherwise, Zhang Yu would be lying in a coffin. However, Li Zongjio had ambushed him and wasted his protective talisman. This was unforgivable to Zhang Yu. The value of this protective talisman was unimaginable. He had begged for it for a long time and paid a huge price. Now, because of Li Zongjio's despicable sneak attack, it had been wasted. Li Zongjio was no match for him in a head-on fight. The Sky Rumbling Hammer Technique. Zhang Yu pulled out a black iron hammer from his waist and smashed it towards Li Zongjio's head from less than 10 meters away. At the same time, the silverback gorilla behind Zhang Yu roared at the sky and punched Li Zongjio's head. This was a move that contained the power of an Yuan spirit. Unless one was a Sky Origin Ancestor Realm powerhouse and possessed the power of the Yuan dragon to defend against the attack, one would be doomed if they were hit. Of course, there was another way. Hidden Dragon Technique. Li Zongjio's figure disappeared from his original spot. He did not panic in the slightest in the face of this move. Boom! With a loud sound, the ground shook. A huge pit appeared on the ground. At the same time, there was a trace of charred black. That is, I heard that the attribute of Zhang Yu's Yuan force seems to be Thunder attribute. Thunder attribute? Isn't that a mutated attribute? Zhang Yu's strength is really terrifying. Zhang Yu is an outstanding graduate of the 16th batch of Chao Wu Pavilion. It's already very good for him to be able to graduate from Chao Wu Pavilion. To be able to obtain the title of an outstanding graduate. It's not surprising that Zhang Yu is a Yuan zone. The three family heads could not help but take 2 steps back to make way for the battlefield. They were also worried that they would accidentally injure others. The guards of the City Lord Mansion also retreated to one side. In a battle of this level, even the slightest ripple would probably cause one's entire body to turn into ashes. Therefore, it was necessary to keep a distance. However, why does it seem like Zhang Yu is being suppressed by Li Zongjio? Su Bingchun was surprised. It was obviously a rare opportunity to be able to watch a Yuan Zone elite make a move. Naturally, he would not miss out on any details. However, they saw that Li Zongjio did not make many moves. In fact, most of the time, he was dodging. However, once he made a move, he would definitely force Zhang Yu to retreat. Swoosh! Li Zongjio's figure flashed and directly rushed in front of Zhang Yu. His fist suddenly smashed out. Boom! There was a flame on his fist. Seeing this, Zhang Yu used his mysterious iron hammer to block it. Clang! After the collision, there was a loud sound. Zhang Yu was sent flying, and the silverback gorilla behind him also fell to the ground. My mysterious lightning hammer. Zhang Yu looked at his empty hands and then looked at Li Zongjio's fist. A wave of energy rolled out and tied the mysterious lightning hammer to his fist like a strong straw rope. Therefore, Zhang Yu flew out and the hammer fell into Li Zongjio's hand. You can't even hold a weapon properly and you want to be a city lord. Chapter 256. Li Zongjio's mocking voice pierced Zhang Yu's ears like a sharp knife. What did you say? Zhang Yu was instantly enraged like a thundercloud. He flew into a rage. The elemental energy around his body also began to crackle and explode. You asked for it, Li Zongjio. The silverback gorilla seemed to have condensed a lightning chain from its palms, binding its body and releasing the power of lightning. Boom! Zhang Yu's aura suddenly surged. Just as Zhang Yu's aura was about to reach its peak. Suddenly he saw a black spear flying towards him. Whoosh! Boom! Ghost spear! Moreover, it was released by Li Zongjio. If he didn't use this thing, when would he use it? Wouldn't it be a waste? The timing of the ghost spear's appearance was also very accurate. It almost instantly landed on Zhang Yu's body. Puff! The silverback gorilla immediately fell to the ground. Zhang Yu's body was also sent flying, smashing into a wall. The spear accurately pierced Zhang Yu's heart. Zhang Yu's collapsed body was still twitching non-stop. He didn't expect that. He would actually be defeated by Li Zongjio. However, Zhang Yu didn't die immediately. This was because although the spear had seriously injured him, he still had the heart armor on his body. This heart armor was also a very rare elemental item. At this moment, it was continuously transferring elemental energy into Li Zongjio's body, maintaining the strength of his heart. Heart protection pill. Zhang Yu held the spear with one hand and took out a porcelain bottle with the other. He poured out an elixir on the ground. This elixir could save Zhang Yu's life if he consumed it. This kind of life-saving pill was usually kept on the body to save one's life. However, before Zhang Yu could consume the elixir, he saw Li Zongjio's foot land and crushed the heart protection pill. This was a 4th-grade elixir after all. It was too wasteful to just crush it like that. Looking at Li Zongjio's actions, Su Bingchun and the others were extremely anxious. That was a grade 4 Dan. If you don't want it, at least give it to us. Let's go down first. Li Zongjio was about to smash Zhang Yu's head with his hammer. Suddenly, many figures peeled off from the surrounding walls and charged towards Li Zongjio. These people were all wearing the dark red short-sleeved clothes made of blood. It was as if divine soldiers had descended from the heavens. The densely packed figures instantly covered the sky above the small courtyard. Everyone be careful, Hong Xisheng couldn't help but say. He took another step back and looked at the situation in front of him. These people had a terrifying bloody aura around them. Crush. At least 60 Bloodstrike guards rushed out and surrounded Li Zongjio. They held their bloodthirsty blades in front of their eyes as they stared at Li Zongjio. Li Zongjio's sudden attack had changed too quickly. They hadn't even reacted. By the time they did, Zhang Yu had already fallen to the ground. Let Zhang Yu go and I will let you go. A figure wearing a scarlet mask walked out. Based on the voice, it seemed like it belonged to a woman who wasn't very old. However, there were 3 bronze rings on the hilt of the bloodthirsty sword in her hand. This person had killed countless people and was already a Bloodstrike guard with 3 bronze rings. If a Bloodstrike guard wanted to be promoted, it was measured by the number of people killed. In order to become a Bloodstrike guard with 3 bronze rings, one had to kill at least 3,000 people. Li Zongjio stepped on Zhang Yu's body. His other hand was holding onto the long spear that was stuck in Zhang Yu's body. Zhang Yu's aura was weak, so the energy of the heart-protecting armor wouldn't last long. It would be exhausted very quickly. He still had a heart-protecting pill in his storage ring. As long as there was a chance, he would be able to survive. Li Zongjio, if you kill me, you won't be able to escape. The entire Dinghuan province will hunt you down. Zhang Yu said in a low voice. He wanted Li Zongjio to understand the serious consequences of killing him. The Bloodstrike guard with 3 bronze rings released a powerful aura that landed on Li Zongjio's body. They couldn't wait for Li Zongjio to release Zhang Yu himself. They had to take the initiative to rescue Zhang Yu. This was the only way they could seize the initiative. However, Li Zongjio responded very quickly. When he heard Zhang Yu's words, he looked at the surrounding Bloodstrike guards. He held onto the long spear in his hand. He could feel that the heart-protecting armor in Zhang Yu's body was constantly releasing energy to maintain his condition and ensure that he wouldn't die just like that. However, if the external threat was just a little stronger, the situation wouldn't be so good. Don't you dare! The Bloodstrike guard with 3 bronze rings immediately shouted when he saw the change in Li Zongjio's eyes. A moment later, Zhang Yu felt the pressure on his chest increase. It was as if a sharp knife had broken through the water's surface and pierced him. No! Zhang Yu cried out in alarm as his heart-protecting armor shattered. The sharp spear instantly pierced through Zhang Yu's heart. Zhang Yu's eyes were filled with rage. At this moment, his eyes were bloodshot. There was only one figure left in his eyes, and that was Li Zongjio. He was an outstanding graduate of the Imperial Martial Pavilion. He had a bright future ahead of him. Countless glorious moments were waiting for him. In the future, he would achieve great things and step on thousands of heroes. This was his destiny. How could he die here just like that? This was impossible. However, the continuous flow of blood and the gradual disappearance of his consciousness made Zhang Yu realize that everything was over. It was all because of the brat in front of him. This brat used to be a bug in his eyes. He had been trampled to death by a bug. Kill him. The blood strike guard with 3 bronze rings immediately ordered. The moment Li Zongjio made his move, he knew that Zhang Yu was beyond saving. He hadn't expected this person to be so decisive. He was definitely a formidable opponent. Since Li Zongjio had killed Zhang Yu, he naturally couldn't let Li Zongjio leave just like that. Dozens of blood strike guards immediately rushed forward. The blood blades in their hands were emitting a terrifying aura as they attacked. "You're bullying me with numbers." Li Zongjio glanced at the surrounding people as a steel blade appeared in his hand. Anyone who approached Li Zongjio had their throats slit. Bang, bang. These people were trained assassins, so they were decisive and ruthless. However, in front of Li Zongjio, their experience and skills paled in comparison. The blood strike guard with 3 bronze rings immediately roared when he saw Li Zongjio killing in all directions. "Get into formation. Release the fishing net." The group of people surrounding Li Zongjio wanted to retreat, but Li Zongjio seized the opportunity and rushed forward, sending several people flying. At the same time, he threw out a ball of black flame. The flame seemed to have turned into a flying knife. Boosh, boom, boom. They didn't even have the chance to get into formation before they were all knocked down by Li Zongjio. After destroying the opponent's formation, the blood strike guard with 3 bronze rings immediately understood that Li Zongjio's strength couldn't be judged by common sense. His experience made him seem like an old fox with decades of experience in escaping. His judgment of the situation on the battlefield was extremely sharp. At the same time, the blood strike guard with 3 bronze rings saw Li Zongjio looking over. Not good. Sure enough, a black shadow flew out from Li Zongjio's hand. Many blood strike guards tried to block it, but they were all sent flying by the black shadow. Bang, bang. The blood strike in his hand slashed out diagonally, blocking the flying object. Clang. The blood strike guard with 3 bronze rings was forced back several steps. Mysterious lightning hammer. The mysterious lightning hammer flew back. Li Zongjio leaped up and grabbed the mysterious lightning hammer. When he landed again, a blood strike guard had no time to escape. His brain matter splattered everywhere as Li Zongjio smashed it. Bang. Even Li Zongjio's body was unavoidably stained with scarlet blood. Cough cough. This person's strength is tyrannical. Retreat. Seeing this, the blood strike guard with 3 bronze rings no longer persisted. Originally, she had brought 60 people, but in the blink of an eye, she had already lost half of her subordinates. Those who weren't injured would either live or die. The blood strike guard with 3 bronze rings waved his blood-red robe and flew away with the remaining people. Li Zongjio didn't chase after them. These were just guards who were doing their job. If he really wanted to kill them, he could just grab the most important person in the organization and kill him. Then the organization would most likely collapse. Therefore, Li Zongjio didn't waste any energy. There was a strong smell of blood on his body. Although the city lord was dead, the guards of the city lord's mansion were still there. Moreover, they were the same group as before. They probably didn't expect this. Under their dutiful protection, 2 city lords died one after another. The remaining 3 patriarchs were dumbstruck as they watched the scene unfold before their eyes. Could Li Zongjio be the reincarnation of the war god? Chapter 257. They saw Li Zongjio standing alone in the middle of the pile of corpses. There were more than 40 corpses on the ground. Blood strike guards and Zhang Yu's corpse. Very few blood strike guards had been able to escape. Therefore, Li Zongjio didn't waste any effort to track them down. The strength of these people alone wasn't enough to make Li Zongjio feel threatened. This situation, how should we deal with it? Hong Xixing and the others exchanged glances. In comparison, the situations that they usually dealt with weren't even worth mentioning. It would be difficult for the 3 great families to escape this calamity. Who would have thought that Li Zongjio, who they had brought back, would directly kill the current city lord, Zhang Yu? None of them had expected such an outcome. They had originally thought that the two of them would be in a stalemate and that whatever happened after that would have nothing to do with the three great families. However, they had been dragged in for no reason. If they left now, this matter wouldn't be over. Cough cough. Do you want to drink some water? Hong Xisheng asked as he stepped forward under the gazes of the other two. Their three great families could be considered pitiful. However, the most pitiful one was still the one hanging on the city wall. He was the one who was truly pitiful. He had been killed for no reason. Li Zongjio glanced at the bloodstains on his body. He didn't care about the corpses around him. Instead, he pointed at the group of guards and asked indifferently, "Who is your leader?" A man in black armor stepped forward. To be able to become the commander of the City Lord Mansion's guards, he had to have some ability. However, his ability wasn't worth mentioning in front of Li Zongjio. He didn't even need to display his ability. If he really did, someone would die. The three of you, did you see with your own eyes these people in red charge in and kill this kid? Li Zongjio asked indifferently. He had to make arrangements for this matter. Otherwise, killing a city lord in public was definitely not a small matter for the dynasty. He had to make proper arrangements and then exert some pressure to suppress this matter. Otherwise, if this trouble spread to Luoxia City, it would be a huge crisis. It seemed that if he wanted to put a protective umbrella over Luoxia City, he would have to make a trip to Thousand Horse City. This Thousand Horse City was a relatively special place. It was also located in the Dingquan province. However, there were no other forces in Thousand Horse City. Everyone was unable to cultivate their own forces. Only the general's mansion in Thousand Horse City had power. In Thousand Horse City, there was a general of Thousand Horse City's territory. This Thousand Horse City was also within the scope of his fief. The dynasty had also trapped this old general here. Otherwise, with his merits and reputation, he could have set off a storm at any time and place. To Thousand Horse City's Thousand Horse City. However, Thousand Horse City was a place that no other force dared to touch or offend. When Hong Xisheng and the others heard Li Zongjio's words, they immediately understood Li Zongjio's plan. This was a good idea. Their eyes lit up when they thought about it. Although it was a little far-fetched, everyone could see that the Blood Strike Guard was in cahoots with Zhang Yu. However, this was the best explanation. The guard commander also understood and nodded blankly. Also, those two people are the masterminds. As for you, you are the #1 contributor in taking them down. The three of you also contributed quite a bit. Li Zongjio said faintly. With just a few words, he had already arranged a good show. Zhang Yu had died at the hands of Master Nian Mo's Yuan Qi, so this was also very easy to explain. Of course, doing this wouldn't be of any use. However, Li Zongjio just needed to buy some time. Once the time was up, even if Li Zongjio knew what Li Zongjio had done, what could he do? If he could get the Blood Strike Guard to protect him, Zhang Yu's status in the Qingyuan mountain villa couldn't be too low. Although Hong Xisheng and the others were helpless, this seemed to be the best solution. They had to cover up this matter. Even the three great clans needed to do their homework. You should have memorized the characteristics of the people who escaped. Send out a kill order together. Li Zongjio said. Su Bingchuan's eyes lit up. So this was the reason why Li Zongjio had allowed those people to escape. This was Li Zongjio's backup plan. After those people escaped, he would shift the blame onto them. This way, even if they returned to the base, they wouldn't have a good ending. There was no need to chase them down. Their fates had already been decided. This method was indeed brilliant. Li Zongjio didn't care about what happened next. If the four of them didn't succeed, Li Zongjio had plenty of ways to make them pay the price. After a little consideration, they realized how terrifying Li Zongjio's strength was. He wasn't the kind that could be easily fooled. They had to serve him well. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. Hong Xisheng and the others heaved a sigh of relief when they thought about it. Fortunately, they hadn't given the order to attack the inn. Otherwise, the people lying on the ground wouldn't have been the Blood Strike Guard, but the few of them. It was hard to imagine what kind of fate would have befallen the family. The consequences would have been extremely severe. He had changed their fates with a single thought. Anyone would be so shocked that they would break out in cold sweat. Before they left, Hong Xixing gave Li Zongjio an identity token of the Hong family. Li Zongjio hadn't wanted it at first, but Hong Xixing had said that with the token he could stay in the city's restaurants and inns for free and get a 20% discount on food and drinks. Li Zongjio didn't stand on ceremony. Although Li Zongjio didn't feel any pressure or discomfort when he went back to live with a house full of dead people, why wouldn't he choose a safe and clean environment? After killing Zhang Yu, Li Zongjio swaggered out of the city lord's mansion. He used the token in his hand to check into the best room in a restaurant 2 streets away. The front desk manager even asked Li Zongjio if he needed a massage. Li Zongjio immediately refused. It was obvious that these people had made ample preparations. There was a knife above the character of lust. Although Li Zongjio wasn't a sage, in terms of the cultivation of his body, he could only improve his cultivation by protecting his body's current state. Otherwise, once his cultivation was broken, it would be very difficult for him to regain his current state. There were still benefits in maintaining his current state. He cleaned himself up and washed away the smell of blood on his body. Ever since he stepped into the Supreme Being realm in his previous life, he basically didn't see blood. If there was an enemy, he would just beat them into a pile of dregs. Li Zongjio had also experienced a scene with a strong smell of blood. There was even a period of time when he was trying to avoid being hunted. He hollowed out the stomach of a carrion worm and hid inside for nearly 7 days. This kind of situation wasn't something that anyone could endure. In order to become an expert, one must first have an unshakable will. Qingyuan Manor has already started to deal with me? In that case, I can't let you develop so steadily. Whether it was Zhang Yu or Master Nianma, they were both sending a signal to Li Zongjio that these people were already eyeing him. Some of the previous small fights and some small accidents might not be considered a big deal. However, Li Zongjio had already entered their sights and even posed a slight threat to them. Therefore, Zhang Yu could be considered his first blade. It was a pity that this blade wasn't considered sharp. Li Zongjio quickly put the matter of Zhang Yu and the others to the back of his mind and focused on honing his mind power. The bloody storm that night blew quickly and fiercely, but it also left quickly. Many people were still asleep, so they didn't know that in these few short hours, things had already changed. The situation in northern Medicine City could be said to have changed several times. Chapter 258. Inside the Thousand-Taste Herb Hall. When Gong Xing received this piece of information, his eyes and mouth widened. Most of the time, his mind was blank. Only endless shock was left in his heart. He kept shaking himself. If the chief knows about this, he probably won't have the heart to open a branch. This Li Zongjio? Where did he come from? Gong Xing let out a long sigh in his heart. Lu Manxian had already gone to Luoxia City and seemed to be trying her best to build a relationship and platform with the Li family. With the reputation and strength of the Thousand-Taste Herb Hall, this wasn't a problem. However, such a serious matter was hard to estimate and believe. Elder Gong, what's the matter? Looking at Gong Xing's worried face, a voice sounded in front of him. Miss, you're here. Do you still remember Li Zongjio from last time? Gong Xing saw the person who came and stood up. It seemed that the identity of the girl wasn't simple. If Li Zongjio was here, he might be able to recognize her. The girl in front of him was the apprentice pharmacist who received him the last time he came here. However, the identity card on the girl's chest had been updated. Beginner pharmacist. She was no longer an apprentice pharmacist, but a true beginner pharmacist. Although she had just started, she was obviously very happy and proud to be able to obtain this honor. Li Zongjio. Remember? Didn't he kill Ao Yong? Fortunately, Ao Yong didn't have any background. Otherwise, this troublemaker wouldn't have been able to escape. The girl wrinkled her nose slightly and said, Fortunately, Li Zongjio escaped quickly. Otherwise, Li Zongjio would have been caught by the law enforcement team. After all, this was a city. If the city lord died and the people below did nothing, the consequences would be embarrassing. Where would the dignity of the dynasty be? Who would dare to take up the position of city lord in the future? If even one's life wasn't guaranteed, wouldn't it be quite dangerous? What trouble did he get into this time? The young girl asked. The newly appointed city lord, Zhang Yu, died tonight. Someone saw Li Zongjiu enter the city lord mansion with the patriarchs of the three major families. Gong Xing said in a deep voice. The appearance of such a situation also made people scratch their heads in confusion. The power of the three great families in the city was not to be ignored by the thousand-taste herb hall. But with the appearance of this unknown brat, he directly mobilized the power of the three great clans to force the palace? There must be some inside story. As for the specifics, they would naturally have to investigate further before they could find out. Although the Thousand-Taste Cottage was not small, it was not a professional intelligence agency. If it was the Rain Tower, it would be operating all day long. The situation here must have already spread to the Rain Pavilion. It was also recorded down. This guy. Take control of the three great clans? That bastard Zhang Yu is dead? It's good that you're dead. The young girl did not care about Zhang Yu's death. Instead, she cared about Li Zongjiu. She was very interested in this Li Zongjiu. Elder, can you temporarily suppress this matter? Don't spread it out so quickly. The young girl looked at Elder Gong Xing and said. Elder Gong Xing was also stunned. What did she mean? Could it be that the young miss wanted to help this troublemaker? This idea could be said to be very dangerous. But looking at the young girl's eyes, Elder Gong Xing found it hard to refuse. Young miss, if the old master knows about this, he will be furious. Gong Xing said. Helplessly, he could only bring up the old master. Otherwise, there was really no way to refuse this matter. Don't worry, there won't be any problems on my father's side. Elder Gong might even make a contribution. The young girl blinked and said. Obviously, the young girl's identity was not simple. She came to Northern Medicine City for an internship and at the same time, came to visit Lu Manxian. After all, she had a good relationship with Lu Manxian, so she came here quietly. Not many people in the entire Thousand-Taste Cottage knew about this young girl's identity. The young girl insisted. Although Gong Xing was unwilling, he had to do it. After all, this young girl was considered half the owner of Thousand-Taste Cottage. He had to listen to her words. With the reputation of the Thousand Flavors Herb Hall and Gong Xing's own strength and status, it was not difficult for him to make a few greetings and cover up a little in the city's judicial organs and the like. This matter was secretly suppressed by a mysterious person. Moreover, the three great clans and the city lord's mansion's guard commander cooperated with each other. This matter was weakened. On the other hand, it was weakened quite well. After all, the dead were already dead. Only those who survived would be able to grasp the situation. Li Zongjiu did not know about this situation, nor did he know that Thousand-Taste Cottage had a hand in it. Anyway, he let the three great clans do this just to delay some time. The next day, the martial law in the city was naturally lifted. Li Zongjiu came to the relay station, took back his horse, and headed in the direction of Thousand Horse City. Thousand Horse City was located in a relatively hidden location. If one had not been there, it was very likely that one would get lost or even die on the road. On the ancient yellow sand road, one could see a series of clearly visible horseshoe camps extending into the distance. However, when the wind blew, the sand would cover the footprints. If one did not bring any equipment to distinguish the direction, they would not be able to get out of here and would get lost in this small desert. In fact, this was just a dry riverbed. As the trees and water flowed, the soil gradually turned into flying sand, forming such a spacious area. The temperature here was quite terrifying. It was enough to let people feel the horror of living here. After passing through this yellow sandland, Li Zongjiu came in front of a dense forest. Just as he was about to enter the dense forest, he stopped. He turned around and glanced at the sandstorm that was blowing behind him. It's the same as before. There's no change. Li Zongjiu said faintly, thinking in his heart. However, when Li Zongjiu stepped into the dense forest, suddenly, a few whistling sounds could be heard coming from the dense forest. Xiu xiu. Two sharp arrows accurately fell half a meter in front of Li Zongjiu. Stop, who are you? A group of people wearing cloth clothes and headscarves emerged from the forest and immediately surrounded Li Zongjio. Based on the way these people dressed, those who did not know would think that they were local villagers or hunters. However, these people's uniform movements and resolute eyes made it clear that these people were actually soldiers. Then, a short man wearing a black checkered gown and carrying a long stick on his shoulder walked out from the depths of the forest. "Boy, are you lost or kidnapped? Go back to where you came from. This is not a place for you. Otherwise, I'll destroy your bird and kill you." The short man glared at Li Zongjio and said fiercely. At the same time, he also looked between Li Zongjio's legs. The threat was not concealed at all. "I'm here to look for your city lord," Li Zongjio said. In his previous life, Li Zongjio had also wandered to this place. If one were to calculate the time, it was probably around this time when he accidentally broke into the boundary of Thousand Horse City. At that time, he knew that there was a city hidden in this inconspicuous place. Moreover, at that time, he thought that he had entered a den of thieves. After all, there were private armed forces in this place. Moreover, it was full of vigilance against the outside world. Ordinary people could not get close to this place. Looking for the city lord. When they heard Li Zongjio's words, the short man and the others' eyes suddenly sharpened. They stared at Li Zongjio with murderous eyes, wanting to see something from Li Zongjio's body. "Take him down," the short man said without hesitation. Suddenly, the people around him rushed towards Li Zongjio. Chapter 259. The person who rushed up was holding a hemp rope in his hand. He wanted to trap Li Zongjio, not kill Li Zongjio. They also had discipline and would not kill people at will. However, they would not let anyone go. However, this time, there was a big difference between his previous life and his previous life. In his previous life, he had to run all the way here, but this time, it was different. The corner of Li Zongjio's mouth hooked up into an evil smile. Half a minute later, the 10 or so people around him, including the short man, were all on the ground. Li Zongjio shook the long staff in his hand. This black iron staff was the short man's family heirloom. It was a dormant yuan tool. If the short man had a way to cultivate to a certain level, he would be able to awaken the long staff in his hand. Who are you? What do you want to do?" The short man suddenly roared. From Li Zongjio's attack just now, he already knew that this Li Zongjio was not a person of this level at all. Could it be that the dynasty has begun to make a move? They actually sent such a young expert to massacre the city. If that was the case, then no matter what, he had to drag this Li Zongjio to death. Everyone would die together. "Don't be nervous, kid. I'm here to find your city lord. I have a way to save your city lord." Li Zongjio squatted in front of the short man and said. Hearing Li Zongjio's words, the short man was shocked. Who is this kid? It seems that he came prepared. Otherwise, how could he know about the city lord? Now, the city lord of Thousand Horse City was already old. The injuries that he had suffered when he was young had finally erupted today. Moreover, a few days ago, the city lord suffered a sneak attack from the enemy and almost died. Of course, the assassin was not caught. Therefore, these days, Thousand Horse City was in a state of panic. Even the people who came and went were interrogated. Those who could refuse directly refused. In any case, there were not many visitors in Thousand Horse City. Moreover, there were not many good people who came to Thousand Horse City. "Who are you?" "Cut the crap. Take me to see your city lord," Li Zongjio said and threw the staff in his hand to the short man. At the same time, he released his mental strength. Otherwise, these people would be lying on the ground for a whole day. "This kid is quite capable. You dare to return the staff to me. Aren't you afraid that I'll beat you to death?" The short man wanted to sneak attack Li Zongjio again. But when they thought about how they were ambushed by Li Zongjio, they didn't know how they were defeated. Li Zongjio's spiritual force seemed to be very powerful. It was precisely because of this that they were defeated so quickly. "Okay, I'll take you." After thinking about it, he put down the staff in his hand. In a while, he would bring Li Zongjio to Thousand Horse City. At that time, he would teach this guy a lesson. He was going to teach this guy a lesson. At the same time, the short man also signaled the people behind him. He kept a close eye on the situation around him, to prevent someone from sneaking in at this time. If there was any danger, they would directly release the signal. The short man also led Li Zongjio into the dense forest. There were many traps along the way in the forest. They probably already knew how powerful Li Zongjio was. Even if they did not do anything, there were many sentries along the way. There were a lot of people on guard duty. Obviously, Thousand Horse City had been heavily guarded recently. After walking for about 15 minutes. Finally, they walked out of the forest. Thousand Horse City was right in front of them. The city gate was just a very short mud wall. However, the sentry towers on both sides were very tall. The range of vision was also very wide. There were a total of 3 people on the sentry tower. 2 sentries, one in front and one behind. The other person was hiding in a defense mechanism. This way, when the 2 sentinels died, the 3rd sentinel would have a chance to spread the news. They wouldn't all be killed in an instant. It was almost impossible to sneak into the city without anyone noticing. Of course, if it was a top assassin, then it would be an exception. Such an expert could enter any place. In fact, at this moment, Thousand Horse City had invited several famous teachers from all over the country. There were also some powerful alchemists who came to treat the old man's illness. "Hey Chai, why are you back? Who is this person?" When they arrived at the city gate, there was still a defense mechanism set up. On the city wall, a woman in military attire asked with a frown. This man's name was Hey Chai. It could also be said that it was the military code name. "Ah, don't say any more. Quickly open the city gate. I want to go in with this little brother." "Open it right away." Hey Chai raised his head and said. The woman on the city wall frowned when she heard that. However, looking at Hey Chai's situation, she understood and immediately waved her hand. "Open the city gate." Suddenly, the 2 doors were pushed open with twigs and twigs. "Captain Shan Feng?" The woman nodded. Her subordinates immediately came to the city gate. Li Zongjio and Hey Chai walked in. However, as soon as he walked in, he saw the city gate being closed with a bang. Hey Chai took advantage of Li Zongjio's inattention and rolled forward. Boom! A gate fell between Li Zongjio and Hey Chai. Seeing the gate fall, Hey Chai laughed. Hey Chai laughed heartily. "You didn't expect this, right? Kid, how can Hey Chai's ability be guessed by someone like you? Today, you have fallen into my hands. I want to see what else you can do." Hey Chai looked like a villain who was intoxicated with success. Shan Feng led her troops forward. She looked at Hey Chai, who was laughing at Li Zongjio, with a puzzled expression. However, when she looked at Li Zongjio, her gaze turned cold. After all, this Li Zongjio was a threat. This dark steel Vajra gate weighs 30,000 pounds. If you want to come out, answer my question honestly. Otherwise, I will turn you into a hornet's nest. Shan Feng was not polite. The soldiers behind her also lined up in a row. The bows in their hands were uniformly aimed at Li Zongjio. They only needed to give an order. They could kill Li Zongjio. 30,000 pounds? Li Zongjio listened with interest. Then, he grabbed the horizontal bar with one hand. He circulated his Yuan power. The golden dragon Yuan power in his body suddenly surged out and landed on his arm. The dark steel Vajra gate immediately shook slightly. Only when the dark steel Vajra gate was pushed to the top would a lock appear and fix the Vajra gate. Boom! Li Zongjio lifted the dark steel Vajra gate with one hand and pushed it upwards. The dark steel Vajra gate directly rushed to the top and was pushed back. What? Shan Feng and the others immediately looked at Li Zongjio in shock. With the weight of 30,000 pounds, and to push the dark steel Vajra gate back, his strength must be at least twice that of 30,000 pounds. If they were not wrong, Li Zongjio had done it with one hand. This person's combined strength is at least 50,000 pounds. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. This Li Zongjio looked so young. Moreover, he had the strength of 100,000 jin. He must be an expert. It could be said that he was terrifying. If such a person was allowed to enter the city, he would be a great threat. Therefore, Shan Feng and He Chai immediately made up their minds to trap Li Zongjio here. Ask your commander to come out. I am not here to cause trouble. After pushing the Vajra gate away, Li Zongjio stood with his hands behind his back, ignoring the tense atmosphere in front of him. The other party had taken out their weapons, but Li Zongjio did not seem to have any intention of taking action. This made Shan Feng and the others hesitate and leave. Could it be that Li Zongjio was not here to cause trouble? What happened? At this moment, a cold and majestic female voice rang out. Shan Feng and He Chai immediately stood up and bowed to the person who had come. Greetings, Deputy Commander. A person in green armor walked out from the crowd. She had a voluptuous figure and slender legs, like a perfect wind fairy. Feng Qingyu, the Deputy General of Thousand Horse City. Chapter 260. Feng Qingyu walked out. She wasn't in charge of guarding the city gate. She just happened to need to go out of the city to hunt some meta beasts. Since there was a commotion in front of her, she naturally came to take a look. She actually encountered an unknown intruder who wanted to look for the commander of Thousand Horse City. He was too arrogant. Feng Qingyu looked at the young man in front of her. Despite being surrounded by so many soldiers of Thousand Horse City, the young man didn't seem to be flustered at all. He was either prepared to die here or he wasn't afraid of them at all. Looking at Li Zongjio's appearance, he probably knew that Li Zongjio didn't intend to die here and he really didn't care. He actually dared to look down on Thousand Horse City. Feng Qingyu snorted in her heart. No matter what, she had to teach Li Zongjio a lesson. She pulled out the sword in her hand. The long sword that was emitting green flowing light was only a finger wide. Such a thin and soft long sword was more like a weapon that could easily take a person's head on the battlefield. You want to see our commander? Feng Qingyu said to Li Zongjio. Li Zongjio also looked at the familiar person in front of him. Feng Qingyu. Although this woman looked cold on the surface, she was very gentle and attentive. In his previous life, Li Zongjio had fled to this place and he was indebted to Feng Qingyu for taking care of him many times. However, Thousand Horse City was attacked by meta beasts later on. In the chaotic battle, Feng Qingyu died in battle to protect Thousand Horse City. The tragic scene was still vivid in his mind. In his previous life, Li Zongjio came to Thousand Horse City in a hurry. What happened after that was a long time later. Even when Thousand Horse City disappeared in the wave of meta beasts, Li Zongjio only knew about it after a long time. Even if he wanted to trace back, he couldn't find the source at all. Li Zongjio's impression of Feng Qingyu also stopped at 3,000 years ago. It was almost the same as what he saw now. Not bad. Li Zongjio nodded. Looking at Feng Qingyu who was standing before him, he could roughly guess what this lady was going to do. Without a doubt, he was definitely going to receive one of her attacks. Alright, if you can take one of my attacks, I'll let you see our commander. If you can't, then you'll die under my sword. Feng Qingyu said indifferently. Li Zongjio was clearly just a teenager, but his tone and actions gave off an extremely experienced feeling. Feng Qingyu also hated such pretentious people the most. If he was so good at pretending at such a young age, who knew how much of his ability was just an act? When Shan Feng heard this, she wanted to tell Feng Qingyu that Li Zongjio had pushed the Vajra gate back with a single hand. She wanted to be careful and not be careless. However, He Chai pulled Shan Feng back and signaled her not to say anything. As the deputy commander, he naturally had his own pride. Feng Qingyu's pride was her sword. It was extremely fast. If both sides were to fight, basically no one would be able to escape from Deputy Commander Feng Qingyu's sword. Shan Feng also understood. She waved her hand and signaled everyone to back off. Otherwise, it would be bad if they were to accidentally injure someone. Li Zongjio rolled his eyes in his heart. It was as expected. However, if he were to face this sword, Li Zongjio would have to go all out. To be able to become the deputy commander of Thousand Horse City at such a young age, her strength would be even more terrifying. After all, Li Zongjio was not in the body of the evil lord. Come. Li Zongjio said to Feng Qingyu. Seeing Li Zongjio's provocation, the corner of Feng Qingyu's mouth curled into a cold smile. In the next moment, she stomped her foot. As the green boots stepped on the ground, a crack spread out. She pressed forward. At the same time, Feng Qingyu's figure quickly swept out. Sword Qi spread out. The green longsword in her hand was like a green light that pierced towards Li Zongjio. You are indeed fast. In order to capture this move, Li Zongjio had prepared his mental strength in advance. However, he could only vaguely capture a shadow. Feng Qingyu's figure instantly appeared in front of him. Origin Ancestor Level. Grade 4 Origin Skill. Green Peak Pierce. Li Zongjio only had time to spread the Golden Dragon Yuan energy throughout his body. Boom! In an instant, the terrifying energy merged into his body. At the same time, it condensed into the strongest defense at his chest. Boom! The green longsword did not touch Li Zongjio's body. Instead, it hovered in front of Li Zongjio. She only needed to take a small step forward and the green longsword would pierce Li Zongjio's body. Disdain flashed across Feng Qingyu's eyes. Although Li Zongjio had made sufficient preparations and defenses, Feng Qingyu could easily break through them if she wanted to. Therefore, Li Zongjio was only able to react to this move, but he didn't block it. However, Feng Qingyu suddenly smelled something burning. At the same time, she saw a burning strand of green hair floating before her eyes. When she saw Li Zongjio's calm gaze, Feng Qingyu also turned her head to look. She realized that there was another Li Zongjio standing behind her. Li Zongjio's finger was hovering in front of the back of Feng Qingyu's head. The obsidian flame on his finger was burning brightly. When Feng Qingyu saw this scene, her heart was immediately shaken. The Li Zongjio in front of her gradually turned into an illusory figure and disappeared. The Li Zongjio before her was the real body. Put down the flame. Shan Feng had already aimed the crossbow in her hand at Li Zongjio. She was ready to shoot it at any time. The rest of the people were also on high alert. The terrifying power that was released from his finger could easily take Feng Qingyu's life if it were to touch her gently. At such a tense moment, it was a matter of life and death. There was no room for carelessness. Feng Qingyu was completely dumbfounded. This brat actually dodged her green peak piercer. This caused Feng Qingyu to be greatly shocked. This is impossible. It's useless to be fast. You have to be accurate. Li Zongjio extinguished the flame on his finger and flicked Feng Qingyu's forehead gently as if he was giving her advice. Shan Feng and the rest were so shocked that their jaws almost dropped when they saw Li Zongjio flicking Feng Qingyu. Could it be that this brat was tired of living? How dare he tease his deputy commander? He was simply courting death. Li Zongjio should have thought about where he would be buried in the future. Feng Qingyu was stunned when Li Zongjio flicked her forehead. She didn't even have time to react. She was still wondering when Li Zongjio had appeared behind her. What kind of method did he use? Could it be that Li Zongjio's speed was faster than hers? Then he was flicked by Li Zongjio. He was stunned, and then he flew into a rage. You're courting death. Although Li Zongjio had dodged her attack, it didn't mean that Li Zongjio could be presumptuous. Once you're in Thousand Horse City, your life is no longer in your hands. Just as Feng Qingyu was about to kill Li Zongjio in a fit of rage, Li Zongjio opened his mouth and Feng Qingyu couldn't help but stop. I can save your city lord. Save the city lord. Feng Qingyu had left the city in order to find a meta beast. She wanted to extract a key part of its body as a primer for the medicine, and the medicine was to be used to save the city lord. However, the success rate of this method wasn't 100%. However, it could still hold on for a while. In less than 7 days, Nantian Pill King would arrive. She only needed to hold on for 7 days. Li Zongjio's words woke Feng Qingyu up. Although she didn't know if Li Zongjio had the ability to save the city lord, it wasn't a bad idea to let Li Zongjio give it a try. After all, this method was very dangerous. If there was another way, it would be a good choice. Moreover, judging from Li Zongjio's performance just now, he wasn't a simple person who played to the gallery. He was someone with real ability. Follow me. After thinking for a while, Feng Qingyu finally put down the long sword in her hand. She walked forward with a cold face and led the way. Before he left, his gaze was quite clear. If anyone were to speak of today's matter, he would directly kill that person. Looking at Li Zongjio, who followed Feng Qingyu, He Chai felt a chill run down his spine. He admired Li Zongjio from the bottom of his heart. Li Zongjio actually had such ability. He couldn't be more awesome than Li Zongjio. I'm really impressed. If this kid can leave Thousand Horse City alive, he will definitely become a big shot in the future, He Chai said in his heart. Chapter 261. Although Thousand Horse City wasn't big, the people who lived here lived and worked in peace and contentment. There wasn't much of a commercial atmosphere here, and most of the streets were filled with animal skins and vegetables. There were many children training on the drill ground not far from the city gate. When they saw Feng Qingyu and the others pass by, they stopped and greeted the deputy commander. This place was more like a place where the family members of the soldiers settled down. There were more elderly, women, and children. Feng Qingyu led Li Zongjio into the general's mansion, which was also the city lord's mansion. After all, this was the fief of the old Yuan general, and he could call it whatever he wanted. When Li Zongjio walked into the general's mansion, he could clearly feel that the defense here had been upgraded. Many experts were secretly observing Li Zongjio. If Li Zongjio made any strange movements, they would rush out without hesitation and take him down. Li Zongjio reckoned that even if He Chai or Shan Feng had brought him here, it wouldn't have been so easy for them to enter the general's mansion. Fortunately, he was following Feng Qingyu, so his journey was smooth. After all, Feng Qingyu was a Sky Origin Ancestor-level expert and had over 10 members of the Green Wind Army by her side. These people had all been carefully selected and had gone through countless trials and tribulations before they had finally become experts. Qingyu, why are you here? In the hall, there was a majestic-looking man who was nearly 2 meters tall. He was wearing a white robe, but he gave off an unapproachable feeling. He gave off a sense of oppression. Beside the man, there were 3 old men. Obviously, they had been discussing matters, but when they saw Feng Qingyu and the others enter, they couldn't help but stop talking. Commander, this is Li Zongjio. He came to Thousand Horse City and I met him at the city gate. He claimed that he could save the general. Feng Qingyu cupped her hands and said, "Oh." The middle-aged man looked at Li Zongjio. Not only that, but the 3 elders on his left and right also looked at Li Zongjio. Qingyu, this? The middle-aged man raised his eyebrows. Wasn't this a little too childish? Most importantly, Feng Qingyu was usually extremely intelligent and would never do anything foolish. How could he be so foolish at this time? Li Zongjio was so young. Even if he started learning pharmacology when he was in his mother's womb, how many years of experience would he have? Any one of the 3 people sitting next to him had at least 3 times more experience and skill level than Li Zongjio. Just in this aspect, they had already surpassed Li Zongjio. In comparison, it would be difficult for Li Zongjio to become their apprentice. The 3 old men also conversed with each other, pointing at Li Zongjio as they discussed in low voices. Feng Qingyu looked at the situation before her. She gritted her teeth and took a step forward. Commander, don't worry. I can guarantee Li Zongjio's ability. Please let Li Zongjio have a try. Feng Qingyu took the initiative to say. She was actually willing to use her reputation to testify for Li Zongjio and support Li Zongjio. Li Zongjio did not expect this. After all, both of them had never met and today was the first time they fought. Feng Qingyu's willingness to vouch for Li Zongjio made Li Zongjio feel touched. However, what she said next made Li Zongjio feel as though he had fallen into a trap. If Li Zongjio can't cure the general, I will kill him myself. These words were spoken in a sonorous manner. At the same time, she glanced at Li Zongjio. Her eyes were filled with a sinister smile. This girl obviously wanted to get rid of him. Li Zongjio could not help but shake his head in his heart. A woman's heart was indeed the most vicious. He could not offend this woman easily in the future. Commander Nan, since this young friend is so confident, there's no harm in letting him try. An old man took the initiative to speak. However, after he finished speaking, he turned to Li Zongjio and said, Young friend, I am Medicine Master Changbai of Changbai Mountain. I have been in the medicine world for more than 50 years. May I know who your master is? Maybe I have some impression of him. Medicine Master Changbai said. Judging from the attitude of the other two, they seemed to be in awe of Medicine Master Changbai. When Pill Master Changbai introduced himself, he could be considered modest. Medicine Master Changbai was now in the Heavenly Elixir Pavilion's evaluation. He was a true medicine king. He was as famous as the South Heaven Elixir King. Although the two of them were in different directions, Medicine Master Changbai was not necessarily weaker than the South Heaven Elixir King if he wanted to refine something. However, medicine masters were particular about recuperation. In order to achieve rapid results, they had to refine elixirs. I have heard of you. Your standard is not bad. Li Zongjio said to Medicine Master Changbai. To be able to receive such an evaluation from Li Zongjio, one could see that Medicine Master Changbai was a person of true standard. Medicine Master Changbai's face stiffened when he heard Li Zongjio's words. What kind of words were these? This brat was too arrogant. He actually dared to criticize him, the medicine king of Changbai. When he used a medicinal herb to cure the plague and saved hundreds of thousands of people, this brat was still wearing open-crotch pants. When Feng Qingyu heard Li Zongjio's words, she chuckled in her heart. Li Zongjio was really bold. He actually dared to say such things about the medicine king of Changbai. It seemed like he was going to suffer. If he couldn't show any real ability, he would really die. If there is no problem, then bring me to see your city lord. The sooner I treat him, the sooner I can leave. I still have things to do, Li Zongjio said. He acted as if he was here to treat an illness. This was too childish. Even the Southern Flame commander, who had gone through hundreds of battles, wasn't clear about Li Zongjio's background. However, since Li Zongjio had offended the Changbai medicine king, he wouldn't let him walk away so easily if Li Zongjio didn't show any ability. Good kid, you are really arrogant. However, I would like to see how good you are. 6 hours have passed. Let's go and see how effective our blood-calming decoction is. Medicine Master Changbai stood up and said. The commander of the Southern Flames tribe stood up and glanced at Li Zongjio as he spoke in a deep voice. Follow me. Li Zongjio followed these people into the inner courtyard. After passing through the screen, they entered the inner courtyard. There were more than 20 black-armored guards protecting the courtyard. At the same time, the roofs on both sides were occupied by archers. Even the slightest movement would not be able to reach the inner courtyard. It would be impossible to escape from the inner courtyard. There was an old man bowing at the door of the house in front of him. This old man looked weak, but he was the strongest person in the courtyard. The old man raised his head and saw the group. Commander, Medicine Master, Medicine Master. He greeted them one by one, but his gaze was mainly on Li Zongjio. Obviously, Li Zongjio's age had piqued the old man's interest. However, when he took a closer look at Li Zongjio, his gaze became sharp. Who's this? Elder Yuan, this is Li Zongjio. He's here to treat the general. Nan Yen hurriedly said. Although Elder Yuan did not have any official position, his status and identity were higher than theirs. More importantly, this old man was a true top expert. If it wasn't for this old man's intervention that day, the general would have already died. If so, please. Elder Yuan nodded at Li Zongjio. After a greeting, he gently pushed the door open. He led the 5 people in while Feng Qingyu and the others stayed outside to be on guard. At this time, most of the things in the house had been removed. There were a total of 6 buckets of medicinal liquid placed in the surroundings. Under these medicinal liquid, a small fire was used to refine it. At the same time, a Yuan inscription array was set up to condense the medicinal liquid. Finally, it landed on the figure lying on the warm jade. The person lying on the warm jade bed was not outstanding. He looked like an ordinary old man. His body was not burly, but thin. His hair was white and there was a green dragon ring on the ring finger of his right hand. Although the old man was lying quietly on the warm jade bed. However, it would occasionally give others the feeling that it was a sleeping dragon lying on top of the warm jade. However, the aura all over its body was still brewing and had not weakened at all. If he awakened, he would definitely be a dragon soaring to the 9 heavens. It was the powerful Yuan inscription formation of the old man that ensured his survival. It seems that the blood-calming soup is effective. Old General's complexion has recovered a lot. Medicine Master Changbai said with a smile. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.